All right, everybody, welcome to the Thursday Night Forum. Stan's here in the house, and Tony snuck in the side door
Yep.
through the green room and into the front studio.
Well, would it be the only time in my life I did that?
That was fast, Tony. That was fast.
Yeah,
That was,
that wouldn't be the first time Tony's been caught sneaking in the back.
or even in the side door. I don't know. Anyway, Tony, since you put such an effort getting here in the nick of time, we'll let you go first, Tony. By the way, welcome everybody Thursday Night Forum, Puppet Chair. You're all welcome here, Arsenal Fan Circle. Tony, take it away. What are your thoughts of the game a couple of days ago now?
You asked me during the last round who I think would be our best opponent, who we'd have the best chance against. And I said Real because Atletico would set up defensively, and that would be harder for us to break down. Real plays open football. And
Facts.
And Kivior is not that bad. I still don't know why Arteta doesn't like him. I mean, he was already linked away in the winter window. So, but with a makeshift defense, we did good. Did enough on the free kicks, saved us. But boring first half. Not much in it in the first half, which isn't surprising in knockout Champions League football. Both teams generally plays pretty cautiously to start out. Then second half they might open it up. But it was definitely a surprise they won 3-0. But not a surprise to me to get a win.
These are the nights that we wanted, Tony. Stan, you and I have talked about this. Gary as well, Alonso. We talked about these nights. The big European nights. We've not had enough of these things.
Yeah. You remember my philosophy? Fuck Thursdays.
Yeah, bring it on. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, right?
Yep. I just dreaded watching those Europa games. Not really playing for much. It's a cup, but that's like.
Yeah,
I wasn't upset like the fans were when Emery was here, when we just crashed out at the finals. But it's like it still doesn't matter. It's not the Champions League. Like I told you, I want to still do a watch along of the 2006 game. I've never watched it back. I'm sure Stan's never watched it back.
I'm never watching it back, so you'll be watching that on your own. I refuse to watch it.
Yeah, I know. I might force myself into it, Stan. But no. to Tony's point, Stan, I was thinking about this on the drive back from work today. Listen, Arsenal should always be in Europe, and we were out of Europe for that one season 3 or 4 years ago. Even being in the Europa League didn't feel right. And now I want to say we're where we should be in the Champions League. Second consecutive year.
And there was a fluke the first time we got into Europa because we had 75 points.
Mm.
And this year there might only be 2 teams above 70 points.
Yeah, crazy. Stan, what were your thoughts on the night that we had on Tuesday night?
Well, there's nothing I want to see Arsenal do more than win the European Cup, as I call it. It's not a Champions League, it's a European Cup. Nothing I want to see more. But if and when it happens, I want to make sure that when we do it, we lock down all of the bases. We leave no room for any kind of browbeating. I don't want to hear anything. Yeah, you won it, but you had a really easy pathway to get to the final. All the big teams knocked themselves. I don't want to hear it. I want to have the challenges. So to go up against Real Madrid, for me was mouthwatering. Although I will say, going into that game, I thought that we would get beaten by Real Madrid, or at the very least, it would be a 0-0 draw. And as I was watching that first half, I didn't think it was boring at all because we had a lot of chances. But Courtois was, you see why he plays goal for Real Madrid. He was stopping a lot of our chances. And I was thinking it's going to be one of those nights where we've had our chances, we can't put them away because of the goalkeeper. And then, come like that 88th minute, they'll smash one past us. Yeah. And it's like we played really well. We almost played them off the park, but we couldn't convert, and they managed to get one at the end. That's why I thought it was going as I was watching the first half. So I wasn't hopeful. And just to set the scene, I was watching it in a pub. So it's lunchtime here. It's like 12 o'clock kickoff in the afternoon. Yeah. I snuck out from work with a colleague who's a mad Botafogo fan who were playing later, but he loves football, so he said, I'll come and watch that. So I was in a pub with him, and mostly everybody else, I would say, in that pub supported Arsenal. So there was quite some reactions, which we'll talk about as the game progressed. But yeah, up until that point in that first half, I was thinking, can we scrap a goal? Is it going to end 0-0? And then we go to the Bernabeu, and they put two past us. I was already painting out that kind of a story. So that's where I was going into it.
Listen, I'll tell you what as well, and Stan, Tony, I had a morning on Tuesday morning, hours before the game. I was like, why not? Why can't Arsenal have a night like Liverpool had against Barcelona years ago, where they beat them 4-0? I actually said, why can't Arsenal beat them 4-0? I'm going to say that. I told a work colleague, but not my wildest dreams. During the game, I was watching it. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous about the game because these are the kind of games you want to be involved in. These are the kind of games that you as we said, Stan and Tony, we're comfortably in the top 8 in Europe. We're in the top 8 of the best teams in Europe right now.
So for me, it was more about, I wasn't nervous watching it because I didn't expect to get much out of it. I mean, we haven't even got a striker. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it was more about, let's see how we measure up against one of the so-called best teams out there. I was interested to see how we would measure up. If we're going to lose, I was like, well, what's the manner of the loss? Did we put everything in, but we just don't have that quality? Or did we not bother? I was more about looking to see how we measured up against Real Madrid.
Yeah, and listen, Stan, you have a companion in the room right there. I was going to say this game is a lot like a cat and mouse game. Real Madrid and Arsenal feeling each other out and going back and forth. I was getting more anxious than anything else after about 30, 35 minutes because we controlled most of the first half, and we had a couple of opportunities through Thomas Partey and then the double chance from Martinelli and Merino, where, as you referenced, Courtois was really, really good, making reflex saves, getting up and reacting to the follow-up. So I was anxious about Arsenal taking a 1 or 2 goal lead to the Bernabeu, because the only way we were going to beat Real Madrid is to have some kind of a positive result at the Emirates. So that was my feeling, a feeling of urgency to take advantage of the home game that we had in the first before we went back to Spain for the second game. So that was my feeling, Stan.
Also, something that after the aftermath, listening to some pundits that I was listening to, they were saying, Arsenal did really well, but it's not the best Real Madrid team. They've not had a good season. And I'm like, why are you trying to take it away? What do you mean they're not the best Real Madrid team? Mbappe scores hat tricks in World Cup finals. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. You got Vinny Jr., who was just picked to being the best player in Europe, the Ballon d'Or. You've got Jude Bellingham, who's a world-class player. He's only been on, look at what he did at Madrid last season, the amount of goals he scored and what he's doing for England. So if they're not playing well, that's down to the training and the manager and stuff like that, right? That's not our fault.
If Real Madrid did not play, it's about how we imposed ourselves.
You know, it's like you can't take it away from us.
How we imposed ourselves on them. Yeah, exactly. So that's how Stan and I were feeling during the games, Tony. I had a sense of urgency for us to get the goals. I was enjoying the game, but I didn't have those nerves in the pit of my stomach. Tony, how are you feeling during the first half and the lead up to the game?
Like I said, it was kind of boring. Neither team was really going for it much, which usually happens when you get this far into these competitions. But like I told you, I thought we had a good chance against them, and even to start with season, I said it. I thought Arsenal would finish third in the Premier League, but wouldn't be surprised at all if we won the Champions League.
Yeah, listen, and now we can imagine. We can imagine what might happen in the next rounds coming. Let's get through a few comments here. Good, Noe Donis, first one in the house tonight. Noe, rice, baby, definitely. Stan complaining about no Arsenal players scoring braces. Well, you ask and you shall receive, Stan. Yeah. Ask for braces, ask for hat tricks next, please. Please, Stan, start asking for hat tricks. Why haven't any Arsenal players scored hat tricks? Top bins only club tonight. Listen, we got to enjoy this one, right? We got to bask in the sunshine of this win. And then toward the end of the podcast, we'll talk about how we approach the second game here. How we feeling, lads, tonight? Listen, still enjoying 48 hours ago, still enjoying that win, Lolo. And listen, if ever you could imagine a superior win over the best team in Europe and three goals that were pretty much unstoppable when you think about it. And we're going to talk about the goals. Well, all three of them are pretty much unstoppable because, as Stan mentioned, Quartos, he's not so bad. Need to go out to Miguel. Tony, yeah.
No, just laughing at you saying not so bad. It's like
he's not so bad. Key takeaway from that match was Rice making the executive decision to shoot rather than cross, with Saka giving him reassurance. I love that, actually. I love that aspect of it. But we're not. I mean, I want to play this thing out correctly, right? We'll talk about the goals in a little bit. Stan, talk to me about the lineups and the decisions that Mikel Arteta had to make.
Well, the one that a lot of people were talking about leading up to this game was what he was going to do at centre-back. Would he use Kivior? And Kivior, he got man of the match in the previous league game. And I've always felt that with Kivior, we've mainly only seen him play at left-back. His actual position is a left-footed, left centre-back. And he hasn't had any, if not much, opportunities to play in his natural position. And I would imagine the times that he has played and come in at left back, he knows that he's either coming in because someone's being rested for a bigger game. It doesn't matter how good he plays, that player's coming back in to take his place. But now he knows that he's going to get a run of games if he plays well. He's got that added boost because Gabriel's not being rested for a bigger game, and no matter how good he plays, he'll just come back for that next game. He knows now that he can have a run of games, and I think that he's looking quite good playing in his natural position.
Yeah,
see more of him in that natural position, and he can just look at some of the range of his passes to see that he's got confidence. He's spraying the ball about quite nicely.
And alongside Saliba, maybe Saliba's helping him along as well. It does. I did see a stat. Listen, when you see a stat of Saliba and Kivior playing together, it's a small sample size because Gabriel Magalhaes has just been ever present in this Arsenal side. But as you said now, Stan, he's going to be out till the end of the season, and it is going to be Kivior. It's one of the things you and Tony agree on, and having Kivior play in that left centre back position And as you say,
I mean, he can play at left back, but his preferred position and the one that he's played most is there.
yeah,
So let's see what he can do in that, in his natural position. That's a good way to judge him, I think.
yeah. Tony?
Yeah, it's hard to judge him as left back because Arteta wants these attacking left backs, and
Yeah,
when you're naturally a defender, a center back, you're gonna get caught off guard because center backs generally aren't the fastest players on the pitch. They're generally some of the
yeah.
slower players on the pitch. So you if he would have been left back in this game, you're playing some of the best wingers in the world, and
Yeah, you're exactly right, Tony. Mikel Arteta wants his left back to be comfortable in midfield. If Kivior is most comfortable as a left centre back, which I think we have clearly identified now is his best position, he plays it in international games for Poland as well. You can't have a centre back trying to play a left wing back and being that inverted fullback that's going to go into midfield as well. It was never going to be his game. He never looked natural trying to do that, and we as a team suffered through that. You know what I mean?
I also think as well that there had been some talk, hadn't there, about him perhaps leaving the club. So if he does get a run of games, and it is that he is going to be leaving, then he's playing to get a better contract wherever he's going, which is good for him. It helps us if he's going to play well.
Stopping the likes of Mbappe and Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. won't look bad on his CV, right?
Or he could end up putting himself in a position where he has a good run of games, so much so that maybe he's asked to extend his contract and stay.
Yeah,
because he's proven. We know that maybe we could have someone that if Gabriel is injured or does need to be rested, we've got someone that can come in and be competent in that area.
And here's the thing that we've seen in our team: Mikel Arteta we've either had injuries or we've consciously shrunk our squad down such that we're asking Gabriel Magalhaes to play 30 games in the league, 35 games every year. Now we can see for lesser games, if we play teams that could be in the relegation zone area, like a Southampton, Kivior could come in and allow Gabriel Magalhaes the ability to rest in a Premier League season as well, because the impact on the demands on these players is such. We're asking Gabriel Magalhaes to play 50, 60 games in a season, and that's not sustainable.
And another thing, Ray, is why in the world does a player like him, I'll go ahead and include Saka as well, because that's how Saka got the injury. They should not be playing in the League Cup, especially in the opening rounds.
Okay.
It makes no sense to me. And Stan had, what do we do when Saka got hurt? He asked that for a year and a half. And both me and him were asking, what do we do if Saliba or Gabriel go down? And I always thought Kivior was fine. It was what he was being asked to do, which was out of his element. Now he's playing where he feels comfortable, and he's doing a fine job at it.
Yeah, I think there's a lesson here that Mikel Arteta has learned. I hope he hasn't stumbled upon this. I hope he's going to learn this and let it sink in. You play your players in their best position, give them the best opportunity to excel. And Kivior is not one who wants to be out on the near the chalk. He wants to be more central as a left central defender. There is places in every Premier League team to be that third and fourth centre back in the squad of a top team in the Premier League. There's places in Liverpool, there's places in Man City, there's places at Arsenal to fulfill that role. Stan, you look like you've got a thought percolating.
No.
Yeah, but listen, what Kivior acquitted himself well alongside Saliba, alongside Miles Lewis-Skelly, and I thought also Jurrien Timber was amazing in this game, Stan.
Yeah, it was a good defensive setup, and it's just amazing to see how far Miles Lewis-Skelly has come this season.
Yeah, that's another huge success story for this season.
That is meteoric. I mean, for his age and to even being selected to play for your national team, not just to someone who's just going, not just to someone to shadow them and watch what they're doing, to actually start and score, get man of the match. Being able to sort of cope with all of that and learning your game at Arsenal, while at the same time, on social media and on radio shows and that getting a lot of heat,
and
he's still being able to come back and it's not affecting him. He's still getting on with his game. He's shutting out all of that noise and he's still been able to perform at a very high level.
Yeah, he's playing for the badge. What did it say about play? You play for the badge and they'll know your name, right? The fan will know your name if you play for the badge. And he wears it. He wears the badge on his heart as well.
One of my questions about Miles Lewis-Skelly is that he's been doing exceptionally well at playing at left back for us and for the national team. But do you think at some point we're going to see him as a midfield player? Because from what I'm hearing, I didn't really watch the youth team. Him coming through, he does play as a midfielder.
Yeah, he's extensively he is a left-sided midfield player. I just think he has grown. He's grown into that role, and he's the perfect solution to what Mikel Arteta has been trying to find, which is a player who's comfortable defending, playing as a left back, but also able to move into midfield with some driving runs. So you're asking the question if we're going to see Miles Lewis-Skelly play in midfield. I would say it's going to be tough to see him move into midfield. That would be my thoughts on it anyway. Tony?
I don't see why it's hard, but Premier League, you're definitely in the top 5, so you might as well see what you have in your players. If he played last year, then we could have saved the 50-some million that we spent on Calafieri, which is not a good defender as that fullback, wing back, whatever you want to call it. To me, they're wing backs, but we play with a back four, but they're always pressing except for Timber, which is disciplined and usually stops at the halfway line.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's... Go ahead, Stan.
But how about, you're in a game, let's talk about game management, you're on the you're coming up to 65 minutes or so. You've got Martin Odegaard playing in the midfield, and you've got Lewis-Skelly, who's been playing at left back in the team as well. And you get to about the 65th minute, and Odegaard hasn't shown you anything all game. You're thinking he's not giving me what I need from him. And you've got Kieran Tierney on the bench, or even maybe Zinchenko on the bench. So you're telling me that you can't withdraw Odegaard, move Skelly into that position, and then bring on somebody else to take up that left back position for the last half an hour, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Why can't we see moves like that happening? Or taking off Odegaard and bringing on Winery?
Listen, I think we're closer than you think to having that happen, at least this season. It does seem like Kieran Tierney's being favoured in that role of coming on and putting some legs on the field for the last 15, 20 minutes. He took the last few minutes in this game, and shout out to Kieran Tierney. He's going to be the ultimate professional, right? Until he leaves. We all know he's going to go back to Glasgow, probably in the summer. But at the end of the game, you see him chasing down balls to the goalkeeper and just trying to be energetic and keeping things moving. So I think we're closer to that than you think, Stan, that could happen at some point this season when Odegaard's not quite doing it. Miles Lewis-Skelly can get pushed into that midfield role. It's exciting times. Question for you, Stan, first, and then Tony. Mars Lewis Skelly, he's got a little bit of nastiness or something about him. He had some kind of a stamp on Bellingham toward the end of the game. What are your thoughts on that? Was that a deliberate or accidental
I
thing?
missed that.
You missed it?
I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah, towards the end of the game, and
There was a problem between him and Bellingham, but I didn't understand, hear what, you know.
yeah,
I was probably still shouting and whatever, but I didn't catch up on that at all. So I can't.
yeah, both of them going to a tackle. They're both on the
I
ground. They're both on the ground, and Mazlo Skelly gets up first, but he moves his leg onto the calf. He moves the studs onto the calf of Bellingham as he's getting up. Just thought that's maybe a little bit of afters right there. And listen, a lot of things can go on the field. We've all played football. There's stuff going on. The game within the game, right? And Bellingham was getting a little bit heated in midfield because he was frankly being overrun by Odegaard, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, and then he had to deal with Miles Lewis Skelly. And Bellingham, none of these Real Madrid players enjoyed being beaten so well, so comprehensively as that, as Arsenal did. Tony, I don't know if you saw the incident I'm talking about with Miles Lewis Skelly on the calf of Bellingham.
Yeah, I rewatched the game and saw it, but to me, isn't that what we've been looking for? That kind of grit and dark arts and
yeah, it's the type of thing in the Premier League that gives you a bad name and you get red cards for. But maybe we have a little bit of relief from the refereeing.
But you get that on the flanks. But if he was playing central defensive midfielder, he would remind me of what probably to me one of the best midfielders we had, and that'd be Gilberto.
Yeah. BX kind of said, key viewer is a humble professional that keeps his head down and does a good job. Miss Molina's in the house, evening on all. Hope everybody's enjoying this 3-0 win. It's Real Madrid, Stan. It's Real Madrid. It's not, it's not some lower tier team from Madrid.
I have a question before we go too much further on.
You have a question? Go for it.
Yeah, Stan always used to talk about the documentary about Odegaard, him being the youngest player at Madrid. Yep. Then you had this summer, he was on loan. Then he got there and he just started talking about all these lies and broken promises and stuff. So I just wondered, how much do you think he was telling his players to play up for him, the shit he went through at Madrid, and if that had any influence on the game?
I haven't really thought about
that. Listen, I think sometimes, for me anyway, Stan, or Tony, I don't think you can take a grudge into a game because
I think you can.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't think you can take a grudge into a game because that takes something away from your own ability to control your emotions and to go out and do what you're doing. Odegaard has been with Arsenal now for what, 3-4 seasons now, and he has rebuilt, or if he needed to, if we thought he had rebuilt his reputation, he definitely did that coming to Arsenal. And Ancelotti recognized the talent at Odegaard. We got him on a snip as well. We have to celebrate the fact 35 million for Odegaard was literally nothing in this day and age. And Ancelotti recognized the talent that he is. So, yeah, we can pose welcome Gary. We can pose the same question to Gary. I think Tony is posing the question, Gary, if Odegaard was holding something about his time at Real Madrid, how he was treated there in this game against Madrid.
Hello, Ray. Hello, Tony, Stan, everybody in the chat. Hello, hello. I don't know. That seems like too much. That doesn't sound like Erdegaard to me.
No.
That. Yeah. No. I think we play up to the competition. I mean, we haven't really had any games against, as you know, the top 6 that you go. You know, we didn't have a chance to win that, and I think Madrid is in that same class of, quality that we play up to them, and that's what we did. They probably thought we would kind of dwindle and die, but I think we played a perfect game against them and took advantage. They didn't look anywhere near what we thought they would look like.
No, wasn't it the perfect game, Gary? We scored 3 perfect goals to be the best club side, the champions of Europe.
Yeah, we scored 3 goals. We had another 4 or 5 goals that we probably would have liked to have scored as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard you talking a little bit. I guess you're talking a little bit about controversy. I saw an article that the goalkeeper for Real Madrid basically was blaming Alaba and Bellingham for the free kicks, and I'm like, you mean the 2 players who cleared balls off of your line? Is that you mean those 2 players?
Yeah.
You know what?
They saved a goal or 2, that's for sure, Gary. In the second half, it was a huge onslaught against Real Madrid. First half, I thought was a little bit of a cat and mouse game. Mbappe had the best chance of the game early on, maybe about 20 minutes in, when Bellingham did slip him in and through, and he just wasn't able to get around the ball in the way that Thierry Henry would have done that. You know what I mean? So for me, Mbappe is not a Thierry Henry, but he's still a dangerous player. And we had chances then in the first half. Timo Quarto saving from Merino and Martinelli and Thomas Partey. So going in 0-0 at the half. What a game though. The second half, Gary. What are your thoughts on and listen, these are the levels right now. Arsenal have beaten Real Madrid 3-0. This is why I get upset with this team when we drop points in the league, when we drop points needlessly in the league, because we can be this good, but we can also be as bad as drawing with Everton twice this season. This is the frustration that I have with this Arsenal team. But Gary, going in the second half, what would you think about the opening stages of the second half?
Yeah, I'm going to say in regards to why Everton poses a bigger threat and West Ham pose a bigger threat to us is because they play sound defense. Real Madrid has been leaky on the defensive side pretty much all year, so that was going to be in our favor. But second half came in. I mean, I think if anything coming out of that half, Arsenal should have felt like, why does it still say 0-0? Why does it say 0-0? What do we have to do to get a ball past, this goalkeeper, essentially? We should be up at least 1 or 2 goals right now. So they just took advantage. And, I always say, if we're not going to score an open play, then maybe we score from a set piece, right? There's all different ways to score a goal, from the spot, from a set piece, or open play, right, essentially. And we opened up the scoring on a set piece when everything else was not working. So, I think we just stayed committed to keep attacking them, and it didn't matter how we did it. We just needed to do it, and we got the first goal, and that basically opened up the floodgates, and we were able to just continue to dominate the rest of the game. So I just think it was our persistence.
Yeah, and the first goal coming from Bukayo Saka's insistence to carry the ball across the edge of the box, and you could see Alaba just straining to get to him. So Stan, take it from there. Bukayo Saka draws the foul on Alaba. We got a free kick. And you're like, okay, great, we got a free kick, but what do we do with free kicks usually?
Well, I'm thinking, okay, see Odegaard's in and around the ball, so I'm thinking, okay, Odegaard's going to be taking this. And Odegaard kind of like steps away, and I'm like, okay, Declan Rice. And apparently, as somebody mentioned in the chat box earlier, the call was probably from our set piece coach was to go to the back post with it, over the wall and towards the back post. And that was probably what Real Madrid was expecting because they had a man on the back post. So that was obviously everyone got the memo. And apparently, Declan's looked at it and he said to Saka, I actually think this might be on.
Mm-hmm.
And hats off to Saka for not going, yeah, but the orders, and it was like
the gaffer said you got to cross it.
He could have put, go no, the orders, and he just went, yeah, go on then. And I mean, obviously, I wasn't parlay to that conversation at the time. I was still thinking it's going to go somewhere over the wall to, so someone could run onto it. So when he done a Roberto Carlos, I mean, everyone in the pub just erupted.
Crazy. I personally had that momentary pause of.
I didn't know.
Did it hit the back stanchion and come back out? Did it go wide? Did it hit that, the pole and come back out? What happened? What's just happened here? Did Declan Rice really just score an excellent goal from a free kick in such a manner? And
the guy that I was
against Real Madrid.
I told you the guy that I was with was a Brazilian, and he said, like Roberto Carlos, and then the camera panned into the crowd, and there was Roberto Carlos going, yeah, what I used to do.
Yeah, he looked a little irritated. Do you think he had some pride in his eyes, or he was a little bit irritated somebody's taking his party piece away there, Roberto Carlos?
I just could not believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
I could not believe what I just did not know where that came from.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It was like if you'd swapped the shirts around, and that was a Real Madrid shirt standing to take that, and you saw that happen, you could be like, really good, but you're accustomed to that. So to see, especially Declan Rice, I was like, where's that come from? I didn't know they had that in his locker.
All right, Tony, I want you to talk about this goal in a way that Arsenal didn't do anything wrong and Real Madrid did everything wrong, and we actually scored a perfect goal. Tony, take it away.
Well, I've always favored him as an attacker, and I still think that's where he should be. I mean, he has an accurate leg from out deep, so he's got the power to it, and that's one key to the set pieces is you need that speed on the ball, but you also need to know how to put the curve on the ball. But to me, I've said this all season. Stan just going to mention it briefly, but I think Arsenal has freedom on these set pieces because you always see Gabriel say, no, let's go with something else, and they check it. So that's not coming from the coaching staff. They're changing what's going on, and that's opposite of what happens in open play because everything's very just military driven in. This is what you do here.
Now, I asked you to explain this goal in a positive manner. Now, come on.
I'll get to it, but I mean, usually they go for the far post. When you have a guy there, I think you should always go near post.
Yeah.
And I think it was an excellent take and go. And that's what happens. And it's not a fluke. Not a fluke when it happened twice.
Listen, not a fluke. I've seen Declan Rice do this in open play against Chelsea last season when he whipped that ball in from a far out distance. Recently at Old Trafford, getting that goal. with a lot of whip on that ball as well. He has the ability, Gary. He's got the skills. He's got the skill set, and as Tony identified, he's able to put some velocity on the ball. And now we're just asking for some accuracy, and he provided some of that accuracy in this game.
Yep.
Free kicks as well.
Yep. I'm one who I guess you might be able to call me a hater of Rice because I was like, what is he giving us for 100 mil? Right, he can barely secure a spot on the team. Right, they're just moving around anywhere in the midfield, and progressive passes. I know he does them, but they're not fruitful. Maybe that's because we're lacking of attackers. But I feel like he's shown that he'll do anything. He'll do everything, anything and everything, and that's what he did. That when he scored that goal against Manchester United, it's like, where did that come from, right? I mean, he's got it in there, and he's definitely a contributor. So I don't for 100 mil. I want somebody who would have just been the answer, and he's still trying to figure things out, and that's kind of like, that's my only concern about that. But he's been showing he'll do anything, and he's been doing everything for us right now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Now I've been asking for Erdegaard to take the free kick sometimes, and then lately I've been like, nah, take a shot, and I'm like, no, I don't.
All right, Gary.
We talk about bringing Zubamendi in, odd man out. It could be Erdegaard.
Who do you want, Gary? Moving forward, who do you want to take those kind of free kicks from 18, 20 yards out?
I think we have to answer.
I think you can't take it away from him now.
Yeah, you got the answer. I mean, it's like when he started taking corner kicks, right? And we're like, all right, now we have our second player on the corners, right? Because you had Saka there. You had Erdegaard at one time. I think Erdegaard at one point was taking him. I think even, what's his name?
What Harry was?
No, before that, who was the left back that we had taken him at one point? He's gone now, but oh my gosh,
Monreal?
No, just recently. I think he came from Southampton, but
left back.
Yeah, he's left back or right back. But anyways, I think we found our guys. He's basically, he's taken on. He's been a corner kick. Once he's take those corner kicks, you're like, all right, that's cool. And you've seen Saka's free kicks, right? When Saka's taking a free kick, he's sometimes, putting it in positions to where we can score. So we've got the players that can do it. I think Arteta's got it stuck in his head that, this player has to do it and not the best player has to do it. And that's where I think he doesn't allow the competition to see its way through, right? The best player should get the spot, not just who you like.
I think that's why you pay the big money as well. You pay the big money to bring Declan Rice, the premier midfielder from West Ham.
Can I have to say something? I have to disagree.
Yeah, go for it.
One of the points that Gary made, he said that Declan Rice is having trouble getting himself into the team, which is why he's been moved around the midfield. I would argue that the reason that he's being moved around the midfield is that the manager does not want to leave him out and always wants to try and find a way to somehow keep him in the team.
And listen, I'll add to that again because we as Arsenal fans have had to sit at the table with rival fans and have a discussion about Declan Rice and what is he? Is he a number 6? Is he a number 8? Is he better than Rodri, for instance? I know some of us have had that discussion. Is he better than Rodri? Is he worse than Rodri?
Maybe he's none of those things. Maybe he's just a footballer.
Yeah. And my thinking now, Stan, is he's not a number 6.
It can happen, right? You can have some players that are comfortable equally in defence and playing up front. Do you know what I'm getting at? Yeah. There are players that have been able to do that, right? So maybe he's just comfortable in a variety of positions where he can be used as a 6, but he can also be used as an 8 by the looks of things.
Yeah.
And
I'll just say to your comment, but for me, for 100 mil, I shouldn't have to be going. I'll just move him around to fit him in. I don't, that's like saying, like some people would say, then I'll say to that, then why not then move Saka back to left back when we need a left back, when we're down left backs, and everybody's going to say, well, because guess what? Because he's a right wing, all right? You know,
Well,
that's what they're gonna tell me, and I'm like, okay, but
I like.
we need somebody in the left wing, left back, and that he's probably the best one we got right now because all the injuries we've got. Right, so I hear you, but I'm like, that's not, I feel like
Well, let me
at some
counter
point,
then, Gary.
at some
Gary,
point you solidify your spot, and I just think for 100 million you should be able to do that.
now
Or else,
the reason that is, Gary, in my belief, is that we hadn't been able to rely on Thomas Partey playing as a number 6 in recent seasons. Now he's been outstanding this season, and I think the reason that Declan Rice is maybe starting to establish himself as a number 8 now is because of the availability of Thomas Partey, who was immense in this game as well. If Gary, just tell you, if Thomas Partey is not available, who's the next person you're going to play? Instead of him, it would probably be Declan Rice, right? So he kind of does get moved around because of the age. The age in our midfield. It's Jorginho, it's Partey, and maybe some other players that we need a Declan Rice to be a 6 or an 8. Hopefully, we establish that position with a Zubimendi. Tony, it looked like you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I've said this several times this year. You have to figure out if he's a 6 or 8. I've always preferred him going forward, but you have Skelly. You have to try him and see. You see that he's a good defender. So if you're a good defender, you're a good defender. It doesn't matter where you're at on the pitch. So put him there as a 6 and see what happens.
Centre back, didn't he?
Or what's that, Stan?
I think he did start as centre back. So he has he's had a lot of defensive coaching and experience.
I think what we can use Declan Rice's defensive attributes even as a left 8 in a quick and high transitional way, so he can win the ball back and release Martinelli, who's beside him, Odegaard, who's beside him, and then we can spring into attack. And maybe I think some of that was happening in this game with Declan Rice, and I think it's no coincidence that we've seen the best of Declan Rice now in the second half of the season because of the injury issues he had coming out of the summer, right? So we're seeing now. We're only now starting to see the midfield that we had hoped we'd see. Partey, Rice, Odegaard.
I didn't think we saw this as our midfield.
At the start of the season, this was our first choice.
I know, but I don't think what we're seeing now and what we're seeing from Rice is what we thought we would be getting from a midfield with him in it. I don't believe that's what we were seeing. Not what we're seeing now. Right?
Well, I'm not going to tell you. I told you he was going to hit free kicks from 25 and 30 yards out. I'm not going to say that, but for him playing at a high level alongside Partey and Odegaard, that's how we thought the season could start with this midfield, and that would be the first choice.
As many goals and assists that he's got, for example, especially last season, I thought he'd be more of a, kind of a Gilberto kind of a player when it comes to numbers, solid, dependable, a bit metronomic. But I'm quite pleased with the way that he seems to be growing and changing his role under Mikel Arteta, because it seems to be working for him. And it's not like I'm putting you in that position. He's like, I don't want to play in that. He seems to be willing to experiment and go with it. So I'm happy to see where it leads. If it leads to a midfielder that can play box to box, a little bit like Granit Xhaka did just before he left, he's able to do a bit on the defensive side. Yeah. But what I like about Rice is that he's then able to do something on the defensive side and gobble up a lot of ground when he can run up with the ball. He's very good at doing that. He might not have transitional passes from deep, but he can gobble up a lot of ground. And, he may be able to increase his assist and goal tally. Could be worth something. It's good to have that variety, though. And I think it comes to shove and other players aren't available, we know that we can trust him as a 6. And it gives maybe an opportunity to a Skelly or somebody else to play in the position that he's vacated. It's good to have that variety.
And I think it could be perfect for us, and especially in this return leg, right? because we have now a player who can be defensive minded, who could sit in alongside Partey when needed, but also be able to move forward and combine with Odegaard, Martinelli.
Return right leg, Ray. Return
I'm
leg.
trying to be very sensitive here, Tony.
Return leg sounds a little mean to me. You know, that's what I just return leg. That just sounds like you just I don't know. It sounds a little mean. You shouldn't say sorry after you said that, but you just laughed at it. So I don't know.
Andrew's on a postcard to the Arsenal fan circle. PO Box 2.
You know, it was a Cedric who was the remember Cedric's corners that we were like, no,
Cedric, are you serious?
Please don't. No, I was saying no, don't, please don't. We had him taking corners for us. Remember that? That's how bad it's been for us.
Do you know why? Because Arteta said he was the best crosser of a ball on the team. That's why he was doing.
You know what? That doesn't. But that's not a good sign, is it?
We have come a long way from the Cedrics and the Lichtsteiners of this world. We now have Ben White and Urian Timber and Miles Lewis-Skelly in their stead. You know what I mean? So Stan knows very well the war is over in the Philippines or East Manila. Lichtsteiner might be.
To me, that's still like the weirdest thing that Arteta did was re-signing Mari and him because they just 4 years. It's just like
Well, the problem I had with him re-signing them is that he didn't even trust him enough to play them enough. So then they were just a waste. Just like I mean, I don't. And what's weird is everybody's screaming, no more Kirior, please, no more Kirior. And guess what? He keeps pushing them out there, and I'm like, that's where I get a little confused with the way Arteta trusts and shows confidence to players is that he's pushing the Kirior out there, but in other players he's like, no, I'll rather do anything I can but put you out there, right? And I'm like, but you brought this player in, and now you're like, I got this wrong. And I'm like, all right.
We have all watched Mikel Merino.
Before you came on, we were talking about.
We've all watched Mikel Arteta grow.
And my thoughts with Kivio were that the most of the games when we've seen him play, he's been playing at left back. And his proper position, the position that he prefers and that he's played most of his games at the professional level, is left centre back. But now, I think, a couple of times when he's come in, he always knows when he's coming in, it's because someone else isn't available for a short period of time. Either resting or whatever. It doesn't matter how good I play, that guy's coming back next week. But now I think he's got his natural position. And he knows that, Gabriel's not coming back for a while. I can have an opportunity here now to get a run of games together and play my natural game. And as I say, if he gets sold at the end of the season, that might up his price and get him a better payday. Or he may do enough when we actually see him in his favoured position.
Wow.
And if it goes well, we may say, hold on a minute, why don't you hang around for a bit longer?
You're right.
That's my problem with it. You have players that have their positions that they're best at. We don't play him there, and then they struggle. Like Calafiore, right? He's a center back, he comes in as a center back. The last thing we've done is actually played him at center back, and we played him at left back. He's not comfortable there defensively, right? Yeah. So then you play him out of position. They don't look comfortable, and then you lose confidence that they can play their real position. It's like you brought him in to play center back. You didn't bring him in to play. He just can play it, but he's not going to play it at the level you want. So put him. But rotate your players. I've been calling for rotation for how long, Tony?
Forever.
Years, right? and like I understand we have Saliba and we have Gabriel, but at some point you're going to run into situations like we've already seen where guess what? Now what's happened already? We've seen Saliba go out. We lose towards the end of the season. Now Gabriel's going out, and we know we're struggling a little bit, but I think when he pushes players out there and gives them a little bit of confidence, they actually show up for him. That's the one thing he's got, right? We always talk about, has he lost the locker room? No, he hasn't lost the locker room. These guys will play for him. My thing is you need to trust all of your guys, not just a subset of all of them. Like you've brought all these guys in. They should have a point to play, a place to play, position to play, a time to play. and be part of the team. Feel like they're part of the team. We saw that with with Tomiyasu a couple years ago, right? He didn't play him for a month and a half, and all of a sudden he had to rush him in and play him against City. He looked off, right? So players need to play football when they're healthy, and they need to. That's part of the rotation that you need, either late in games or give them starts, whatever the case may be. And I think like right now, it's always forced, right? It's an injury, a suspension, right? But for me, it needs to be just part of your natural rotation of players that they come in and out of the lineup.
Like what we did at Everton, Gary. We did at Everton. Don't be afraid to rest Martinelli, Saka for half a game and play some of these players like Kivior.
For Kivior to get the man of the match, I think that's no mean feat. It's not like he's a tricky winger who's skinning players and assisting, or a midfielder. He's in the centre back position, and so he done enough to get eyes on him and get the man of the match. So you got to say fair play, and I'm so glad that he wasn't dropped for the next game and someone else came in, because then you would be like, well, what have I got to do here? I'm man of the match, and now you're dropping me against Madrid, and he's coming against Madrid. He's not as good as Gabriel, but he's not supposed to be, because he's not a number one. He's not our number one person. He's a backup.
Yep.
But it's good to know that hopefully he can come into that position when needed. If Gabriel now, we can say, okay, we can trust this guy. I'm hoping this is what happens, right? I've only seen a couple of games, but if he continues, we can maybe go, we can trust this guy. And we know now that we don't have to run Gabriel into the ground.
Let him play, Stan. Let him play half a dozen league games.
We can share that time up a little bit. That'd be good.
Yeah, let him play 6 to 10 league games if they're at home or away against lower league teams that you should be beating, and let him develop even along Saliba. And then go the other way. Gabriel Magalhaes can play with somebody on the right other than Saliba and give Saliba some rest. I think these are the things that we need to start doing, moving into a Premier League season. We've seen this season dogged by injury, But Declan Rice, his moving around midfield, in my opinion, is due to, an aging midfield with Partey, Jorginho, and just having to move
but that's down to the manager, Ray. Look how long it took for Jorginho to finally get a game this season. It was end of October.
Yeah, and as Tiger and Gunnar said, Arteta needs to trust his players a little bit more. As Gary said, not just 14 or 15 of them. You got to open that out to over 20.
Yeah, we couldn't get it. We couldn't get a lick out of Ceballos, but he plays for Real Madrid and he performs, right? So for me, that was, I believe, on the manager. Like, he went to Real Madrid and he's won Champions Leagues with them, and he's actually come on and contribute in big games for them, right? How is that? Right? That's because they actually have confidence that he's going to get whatever job they put on the table for him done, right? And so that's kind of, that's one thing Arteta has to learn. You got to play all these guys, and they will perform for you.
Listen, you'd have to say, in this setting, Gary, you'd have to say this would be a real lesson that Mikel Arteta may have learned against Real Madrid. You put Kivior in his favored position, and he's going to reward you with a performance. That gives you a clean sheet against Mbappe, Rodrigo, and Vinicius Jr. You know what I mean? It's not rocket science, as we've been saying. Play your best players in their best position, or if they're worthy of being in the squad, Tony, they're worthy of playing.
I hate the word project and all that stuff. I'm always the win now guy, but you're at the point now that you have to have these players. That's your spot. Unless there's injury, then you can move. But put everybody in their best spot. You buy a striker, you play him as a striker. You don't put him back in the fucking midfield like he's done with every striker we've had, except for a Bummerang. You've had Lacazette, the false 8. At one time, he was about a false 6 because he'd be back there with the center back. It's like,
all right.
You don't task your striker to do that stuff.
All right.
Striker.
Definitely. Definitely, Tony. And listen, hopefully, moving into the summer, we do get a striker of repute that's gonna. Can you imagine what this would look like if we had a Jokeris going through the middle? Now, Mikel Merino. We'll get to Mikel Merino. He's actually scored 6 goals in 10 games, so that's not a bad return
No.
for a midfielder playing as a striker. But how about this second goal? Right, Arsenal 1-0 up. How about this second goal? I mean, okay, I don't know. I even know how to start this conversation about this second goal because somehow the first goal was amazing, but it seems for me anyway, the second goal was even better.
When he stepped up for that second goal, I was kind of thinking, there's no way you're going to be able to top what you just did. There's no way. So I was quite sort of like, I was just like, I was like, there's just no way you can follow that up.
Yeah, just in dreamland at this time. At this point,
Unbelievable. I was just like, my eyes were like the size of saucers. I just couldn't believe that he had just done that again. I was just like pinching myself, like, am I asleep? Is this a dream? Like, I'll wake up, my alarm will go off in a minute, and I'll wake up, have to go to work and take out lunchtime to watch the game, which is what I did. You know what I mean? It was like, no, this is actually now. This is happening.
we know Bukayo Saka was fouled for the first goal. I'm not sure who was fouled for the second goal, but it was Bellingham that fouled the person. Was it Saka?
I thought Saka he got fouled twice, and
Okay. Then it was Saka that was fouled for the second goal as well, by Bellingham, I believe it was. But Gary, I mean, what a hit from Declan Rice. The goalkeeper's got the best view. Not the goalkeeper. Maybe the goalkeeper's got the best view, but I think the referee has the best view. He's hunched down looking at this thing, and it's the perfect view of this goal is going right into. We call it the postage stamp right up there in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, it was a rocket, man, and the way that the Arsenal players cleared out the way, like, get out of here, it's coming.
That's going to take somebody's head off.
Arsenal players just opened up it's just like part of the seas, and this thing just shot through there, and then nobody's as everybody said, nobody's getting to that.
Nobody.
I think Thierry Henry. You could be standing right next to it, and you probably still can get you because you're like, oh damn, it's already past me, kind of thing. So
I think Thierry Henry said you could put 10 goalkeepers there, and nobody's getting that. Just the velocity, the speed, and the accuracy all combined in that top right-hand corner, and it's literally the size of the ball, Tony. Is that It's gone right in there between the crossbar and the upright where they meet.
I mean, sometimes like they put those they can hang targets up there.
Yeah, the bins, right?
And aim for those. But like I said earlier, I think he's always had the foot for it. It's just now that he's able to do it. And I think part of why he stepped up so much, you've seen this season on the set pieces. Basically, that Odegaard, Gabriel, and Rice are the captains. They're the ones in charge of stuff. So you have Gabriel go down. So then you have to do more of a workload. So I think that goes into it. So you're trying harder for the team. And I mean, that's what it takes. It takes exact precision to do that. It takes a lot of concentration. And sometimes you need that extra pressure on you to do those things.
Yeah.
I know me with playing different sports and whatever. I did the best in those moments, like the games, like in Little League for first place. I would play a lot better, or whatever. It's some people step up to the pressure.
Yeah.
And he definitely did that. I've been a big critic of him this season because I think he's had a pretty poor or he had a poor start to a season.
Injuries. Do you take that into account?
I still think he was been pretty poor.
Yeah, he's been pretty poor because he had a poor start to the season. He literally used the start of our season as preseason, and that's how much international football can mess with club football now. We've seen it. If you don't have the kind of squad that we need to have, where you're going to use Kivior for 8 to 10 league games, then you're probably going to suffer because your top players are just not going to be able to play at the levels that we need them to play in a full season. And we've seen a drop off. We've seen a drop off in the league. We've seen a drop off in the FA Cup. You
have to tell that to Arteta, because those guys are playing in the opening round. Like I said many times, Arteta usually starts 5 or 6 of those guys, first string guys. Then he'll bring on the other 5, and even this year he didn't have much of a choice on keeping.
Listen, we hope the summer is a busy one. There's a lot to be done this summer and plenty of time to talk about the summer business. But we hope that a lot of new faces are coming in and faces that Mikel Arteta will rely on more. Stan,
one second, Ray. I didn't have a say on this earlier. You guys kept on mentioning Arteta needs to improve on trust, but we've been saying that for like 4 or 5 years, and he hasn't improved on it. It's like he likes this set of 6 to 8 players. Maybe he'll trust 12, but that's far away from the 26 you get in the Premier League and the 28 or whatever it is in the.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. But there's one thing I think can change a lot of things. If you're bringing a proven goal scorer, a proven striker, that guy is going to score the goals that will make the difference between everything that we're talking about right now. In terms of trust,
he hasn't signed one in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
You say that, right? But then Real Madrid coming off how many Champions Leagues they've had over the last number of years. They bring in Mbappe, and how do they look now?
Not so good.
Yeah, I mean, you expect at least the attack to be better, right? Consistently better. Like he might be consistent, but everybody else around him, are they consistent? No, right?
Yeah,
he actually had a good game against us, but then you go to Rodrigo and you go to Vinny and you go to Bellingham, and you're like some people say, I don't know if people say this, but he doesn't seem to be the one that's getting everybody to join in, right? And up their game.
There's
better.
Listen, there's a chink of light there, Gary. I'm hoping that things are not exactly firing over there at Real Madrid. And listen, hindsight's 2020, but as Tony said, maybe Real Madrid was the better match for Arsenal in this tie than a Simeone, a dour Simeone, and Atletico Madrid.
We can't play against Everton. Right, and Atletico Madrid is a better version of Everton, right? So
yeah, definitely. So the second free kick goal from Declan Rice, the place is going mad. Rumor has it stand that Nicolas Jover won't talk to Declan Rice anymore now because he's clearly refusing instruction to cross every ball into the box.
For me, on Declan Rice. He's shown me that he is £105 million player. To be able to do something like that in that kind of competition against that kind of opposition, he'll probably end up playing for Real Madrid one day on the back of that.
Yeah,
they'll want to have that guy, or they'll probably try to get him. So the name of the show is and that's why you pay the big money. That's why you pay the big money.
Yeah. For me, and that's why you pay the big money.
If I was Mikel Arteta, I would imagine at some point he would have been sat somewhere waiting for a phone to ring to get congratulations from, Josh Kroenke. or even Stan Kroenke, right? I'd be waiting for that call, and I'd pick it up, and I'd let them congratulate me and well done's, all the well done's, and blah blah blah, and then I would just say to them, and that's why you pay the big money for someone like
Yeah.
Declan Rice. Now
That,
go to Newcastle and pay the big money and get Isak. Show some intent because good things will happen if you do that. It will be you like tonight. It will be better than tonight.
yeah.
I like. Well, that's why we should have spent an extra 20 mil on Watkins for the exact same reason. Why? Guess what? Go out there and get Isak now, because we want to go levels up, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to just get better. We want to jump levels like
Yeah.
City did when they first brought in Haaland, right? I
I
think they brought
love-
in Haaland, but they needed to bring in some replacements for KDB and Walker, and it seems like they needed a number 6 as well, right? But
Why can't
we have
buy
everything
both?
we need except for a striker. So go out there and get the best striker you can,
Yep.
and then no matter who he brings in for defense, it always seems to work, right? Everybody were like, "Why did you bring in Moreno? It didn't work in defense, but they moved him up the pitch and he's looked better." I think Arteta can bring in anybody and he'll get them to play defense for him. What he hasn't figured out is how do I get a player that's supposed to be an attacker and get them to actually perform.
Yeah.
And that might be one of his Achilles heels right now. We'll see if it changes with this next with Berger at the helm.
To your point, Gary. To your point, a few years ago, Declan Rice was in a West Ham shirt watching an Arsenal team play, and he said to himself, "I'll have a bit of that. I want to go to Arsenal, and I want to play with these guys." I think on Tuesday night, certain strikers around Europe, one in Newcastle, maybe one in Lisbon, and maybe one in Leipzig. Maybe even one in Turkey. I think he's still in Turkey. Might have been looking at that Arsenal team and saying, "There's a position there at number 9 that I'd like to play in." And we spent 105 million for Declan Rice. Why can't we spend something north of that for an Isak? If that's and Arsenal, the Arsenal are going to go big in the summer. So show the intent, put some money. There's been a long time since Arsenal put a lot of bags on the table to have a club try to make a decision publicly. Let's do that to Newcastle. If we can't do that, then we go change our sights to a Gyökeres or Sesko. But we need proven goal scorers. Tony?
Yeah, proven goal scorers. Plural, right? Plural. Why can't you get Isak and Watkins? Because Watkins is going to be your short-term solution.
Yeah,
So you need that medium and long-term deal, and we might have the long-term deal in our academies playing for.
Would you be happy?
Right
would you be happy with Isak and Havertz as your 2 strikers?
I still don't consider Havertz a striker, but there's gonna be times like to me when those teams set the bus, that's when you need a Havertz, a guy that can jump up and head the ball in there.
Yeah,
that's when you need him. But he's always a forward to me. He's
I think we can all see for the last 2 windows, Tony, Gary, Stan, that the last 2 windows we needed that striker, and it'd be criminal if we get out of the summer here without a proven goal scorer in the shirt of Arsenal. Right, John said, just joined the stream. What did he miss? He missed the 2 free kicks free kicks from Declan Rice. Red John. Tiger and Gunner said, we've all seen that post of Saliba looking at the ball going in the top right-hand corner. Some people have hung that in the Louvre as a masterpiece right now. So, like a bit of that. Will Jesus be back? I don't think he's going to be back till Christmas time. I'm used to him out of the squad.
We'll sell him in January, hopefully.
Yeah. Michael said, I can see us reaching the final. This is halftime, right? You're 3-0 up at halftime. You're reasonably confident the team can see it out, but you have to be a little bit cautious. And we'll talk about I think Arsenal need to hold out for about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in the other game. I'll say the other game, Tony, and not reference leg at all, Tony. But if we lose the final, Arteta out, LOL.
You said the return leg, right? That was not happening.
Is it dangerous to talk about the other games and project? Should we not do that?
What do you mean?
Talk
What
about
games?
the other quarterfinal games and project almost as if we're into the semi-final.
Well,
A
we're
little
going to
dangerous, right?
one of Aston Villa or PSG.
PSG, yeah.
And for me, I think PSG have looked the best that they have in years. You know, before that, they always had all of these big names and there were some nice individual moments. But as a team, they seem to always kind of fall short. They seem to have got over that a bit. They seem to be more of a team from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Still got some very good players in there. They don't have to, you know, they haven't got like legends in there, but they've got some very, very good players in there. Dembele,
Dangerous. Dembele
do you
as
know what I mean?
well. Probably the main guy there.
Good players. So I'm not, you know, and they have been so hungry to win this competition for so long and always being so close. Almost had one hand on it on so many occasions and not quite doing it. But on the other side, what have you got? You've got Aston Villa. And, you know, if we look at the league under Unai Emery, they've, you know, we have got at them, but, you know, they seem to have better stats against us since I think Unai Emery's been
And
there.
you can't 3-1 Aston Villa 3-1 down from this first game. You can't rule them out. They could come back in that tie.
So I don't know who I'd rather have. Do I want to go up against? But then again, like we said earlier, you know, we said we don't want any. If we were ever to win, as I say, you missed this, Gary. I said if if and when we ever win the Champions League, I want it done the right way. I want it clean. I want all of our bases locked down. I don't want anyone coming out of crap like, yeah, you only won it because you got through the easy tires.
Well,
you know what I mean? I
you'll be
want
saying,
no arguments. No one can say nothing. So on that basis,
Dad,
for my guns, I want to get PSG.
you'll be saying we beat Real Madrid, we beat PSG, and we beat Barcelona. That's what you'll be saying.
But look how much things have changed since when we played PSG. Because I was arguing because they placed them 12th in Europe, and I at the time I'm like, they're really not a top 12 team because they weren't playing good. We had an easy go at them that first game.
Yeah, they were a young team, Tony. Yeah.
So now as they've gelled together and stuff, now they're to have a little chip on their shoulder. Let's get back at Arsenal. So to me, I it's really a toss-up because Emery probably has more points than we do against him, and he always knows how to crack Arsenal
against us.
He can set up the defense.
Yeah,
he can set up the offense.
Pick your opponent, Tony. Who would you like?
It's a toss-up. I mean,
right.
I
would like Aston Villa. Honestly, I'd like Aston Villa because we know who they are. We know what they are. They've been tricky opponent for us in the last couple of seasons, but I think we can overcome Aston Villa.
I'm going to say PSG because the winning the Champions League is Aston Villa's only way back into the Champions League next season.
Right. Well, I mean, winning the Champions League for Arsenal would be the first time that we win it. And with this group of players, it would be an amazing achievement. Now, we're saying all of this, Gary, knowing that we have a second leg to come at the Bernabeu with a 3-0. A 3-0 lead. So
I thought you're done talking about
but we've been
legs,
saying this and all year, at least I have been saying, if we lean on our defense, we'll be all right.
Yep.
And we've been leaning on our defense, and our defense has kept us in pretty much every game, right? Nobody as we said going into most games, nobody's scoring 2 goals on us. Which hasn't happened in a very long time.
Yeah.
Right, and it hasn't happened in the league. Hasn't happened in the Champions League. Well, I guess did it happen in the Champions League?
I don't think
it
we
did.
lost 2 no.
192 days since anyone has scored more than 2 goals against us.
Yeah. So so now we're talking about Real Madrid having to score 3 on us and us not even getting a shot on target, and we just had 11 in the last match, right? Right.
Yeah.
And I think I saw Calafiori's healthy, right? So he's practicing, so he's back. I don't know about Ben White. So hopefully Ben White's coming back, so that just helps our squad get healthier and better as we move along, right? So I don't know, and we hopefully Saka is back. I know he had a little ankle. I think it's Saka and Rice and who was the other player? Is it Timber that went out? I think. I think if they're all back, then we're fine. But Timber's the most important of the 3.
Goes without saying. Yeah. It goes without saying. With those names that Gary's named, it goes without saying that we rest the majority of those players at this weekend against Brentford. We rest a lot of those players.
Before Gary said that, I was sitting there thinking, as long as Timber is at one of those fullback positions, you're not doing enough to advance on, because like I said, he goes against what Arteta wants from his fullbacks. He's very positional aware. You hardly ever see him past that halfway line, and that's what you want in a fullback. And I still think there's the best positions back on the left. I think that's where he's best at. And when White comes back, I would put White there.
Who do you think's best on the left?
I think Timber's better on the left than he is on the right.
Laszlo Scally is compiling a big case for his.
But
I think Timber's better on the right.
Like we mentioned, that isn't his preferred position, right?
Who's going to take it from him right now?
And another thing,
Zinchenko.
And another thing with him, you've had the reds, you've had the yellows that probably should have been reds. So I still would prefer Timber over.
Yeah, listen, maybe that could be a way to go. Ben White, we want to be. It's very dangerous how we have to be careful how we're going to set up next week, because with the team that you pick, you're going to tell the players how you want to play.
Realistically, have who could come in and play at the weekend? The Jorginho, Kieran Tierney.
Yeah.
Who else is there?
Well, Ben White's healthy. He needs to play.
Sterling.
He needs to play.
Stan,
and where he's
is your mic plugged in all the way?
Yes.
Yeah, you're just a little bit low, Stan, on your voice and your volume.
And you keep cutting in and out.
Trossard
is. I think we can put out 6 to 7 players, outside of Raya, and then a couple of starters, and hopefully see out the game.
Even the goalkeeper, Neto, could play, right?
Do we want that?
No, but that could happen. I'll get through a few quick comments here while I think Stan's checking his volume there. Michael.
Is that better?
Robotic, fuzzy.
You're coming in stronger.
You can hear something. You're like a bee now. A little bit more. You're buzzing like a fly a little bit. It seems we won't buy players because of position, but if they improve the squad, says Michael. Just join. Here we go. Declan Rice scored the best free kick goal we've seen in years. I think it was something like 4.5 years. It was September 2021 when Odegaard scored against Burnley. Only to top that 13. It was only 13 minutes later. So, and it was It was amazing to see Real Madrid players puffing their cheeks out in super slow motion. Mbappe, Bellingham, all these players getting irritated because Arsenal scored the most amazing goals against them. They can't complain. I mean, the only thing they're thinking is, how can they score two worldies? How could we be losing the two worldies? Well, as Gary said, we should already be 3 and 4-0 up before those goals. If you can do it against Courtois 2 times back to back, you have to call him world class. Freak goals, world class. What is that? Was. Ask any fan in world football if there was a squad for squad swap. Everyone's reply, regardless of the club they support, would be Real Madrid. You're still a little bit low.
Really?
Yeah, but we can hear you.
Is that better?
That's better.
Yeah.
Oh, the mic's too far away from you, probably.
I just turned it up a bit.
Oh, okay.
Tiger and Gunner said, I can see us getting in the final, but that's my heart telling me that. Listen, logically speaking, we have a huge, I don't want to get into percentages, but we have a huge chance to get through this tie against Real Madrid, right? And then
we definitely don't want to do percentages.
We're up against PSG or Aston Villa, and I definitely would fancy our chances.
The financial rewards for getting past this stage. Last season, we didn't get past the quarterfinals, right? If we can get to the semi-finals, then that's a bit of improvement in this competition, right?
Yeah. But then you get to a semi-final, and you're playing either Aston Villa or PSG. You have to say,
again, it's a new day. It's an improvement. It's better than we did.
That is an improvement.
4 teams in Europe. We can call
also, and I know you want to get to the final, and you want to win it as well, Stan, Gary, Tony. You get to the semi-final, you have to take that chance. You have to take your opportunity. Yeah, your window's here to get to a final. You have to beat Aston Villa. You have to beat PSG. I wanted to talk a little bit about last season against Bayern Munich. We were very, very tentative. We were very nervous. We were very shaky. And part of that was, you have to give him props. Part of it was because of Harry Kane. I'm going to say it. He's pretty good in that focal position. And he gave us a tough game. And Bayern Munich gave us a tough game. I thought that experience, you could see in this performance, Gary, what we learned maybe from that experience against Bayern Munich last season.
I think that's a part of the learning curve for Arteta for me, because
the players.
I think it starts with the coach, because I think the players had the talent, and they may have been being held back partly because of the coaching. Is kind of where I'm going to go with that.
Or nerves.
Like I said, I will go with the coaching, creating that concern and that kind of unsureness of what we're going to do in this game. Whereas now, whatever he's doing is working, right? I mean, nobody look at that game. Look at that game. If somebody said how, we were talking about what the perfect scoreline for us is 2-0, and we go into that game, we come out winning 3-0, going, and we left like 4 goals on the table. You know what I mean? Nobody was thinking that. So whatever he's doing now, he's like, everybody said it's going to take him time to figure this thing out, and he keeps showing us every so often. There's been these like blips where everything just starts to go up, and whatever wasn't working before is now clicking. I mean, we're down. We've been down Saka. We're not getting the best out of Erdegaard, right? We're missing Jesus. All these players we're missing, and guess what? He's still chugging along. And that's what we said. That's what we said in the past, right? Just because somebody goes down doesn't mean everything just stops and then it's all over. He's learning from that. You know what? That's why I have a squad. All right. That's why I have a squad. So when this happens, either I adjust or, it doesn't matter, because the next player can do the same thing. Right. We've rotated all of our fullbacks. Left, right, don't matter. Right. Has the performance dropped much? No. And that's the fullbacks, right? So I kind of felt like, what? That's what we're seeing. That's good to have, right? We're not losing anything when we defensively, we're sound. Doesn't matter who we play. Anybody that's come on right now has performed, right? Everybody has come on has performed. You got little blips from Kiwior, but I think that's because he doesn't play enough. If he was playing from the start of the season, like getting bits and minutes here and there, he'd be so comfortable in the system, and all these things that we're seeing, he wouldn't get caught out, right? And I think that's kind of where that's why I've been calling for rotation and calling for Arteta to trust the players that he's bringing. If he's bringing these players in, he had some trust to even put the money up top for them, right? Why not play them?
But to me, with him, you're playing him in a non-preferred position, but also you're giving him the instructions to go forward, knowing he doesn't have the speed to get back. Then you're leaving Gabriel and Saliba on the islands, and that's why I don't like the way we use our fullbacks. That's why I like the way we use Timber, or the way Timber plays. Don't know if that's the instructions he gets or not, but that's the way you want a fullback to play. You don't want them up with the wingers unless you're playing with a back three, because then you have support. But when you have two guys on an island, you're not running the ball up either wing with your fullbacks. You just don't do it. All this talk about inverted, not inverted, it doesn't matter. You don't do that.
But it seems to be working, Tony, because every time Miles Lewis Skelly went off into the midfield, who was at left back? Martinelli.
Yeah, but he's a midfielder though.
Martinelli.
But it's covering. They're covering for each other.
It's not for like 20 minutes. It's just for a period of time.
Yeah.
But
a few minutes.
It's like you've got someone like Martinelli who's got the tenacity and an ounce to say, okay, he's going up there. Okay, I know that he can take care of it up there as well, but I need to cover where he just came from.
Football intelligence as well.
I mean, think about it. Calafiori and
being drawn to the ball and go, I'm going with him.
Yeah.
Now think about Calafiori and Skelly have had some really, really top scores this year. All right, now our fullbacks, and we've said that's even better than some of our wings. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, has Martinelli had a goal like Calafiori? It was Trossard.
Like the one against City, no.
Yeah, you know what I mean. There's and then but the last one where Erdegaard gave him that pass in whatever game it was, right?
City.
Is that City? I thought no.
City. What are we talking about?
The City one is one when he took it and brought it into the box and shot it, and then the Erdegaard one is where he passed it and like a wing, he just basically took it one time score, right? That was one of our recent games in the last month or so.
PSV.
Yeah. So like I said, I think defensively he gives these guys free reign. Offensively he holds them back. That's what I believe. I mean, because for some reason I don't get it. Why is our defensive guys able to go up there and look so free, not so free there? And then
Fleury started his career as a striker, so maybe you know how to do it, right? It happens a lot. They move around. They start off in one position, and by the time they get professional, they were left wing. Now they're playing at right back.
So listen,
these players have got it. Can I just say that my biggest fear going into this next tie at Real Madrid is it's more about, I hope that the players are not going to be overawed by the occasion, because I saw them do that in the Europa League. That game when we went to Porto, somewhere in Portugal, it was a big, loud stadium. Yep. And you could see they were kind of like, it was only within a few minutes of kickoff, Declan Rice got a yellow. Should never have got that. And I was like, they're like they're not the shock of this stadium. So I hope they've got over that now, and there's enough experience in there. Well, there isn't, is there?
So Stan,
but I just hope that they don't let this Bernabeu situation get to them. That's my only fear. Other than that, I think they can take care of themselves.
Yeah, so that's what I was kind of trying to get at with this segment. And talking about Bayern Munich last season, we were very tentative. We were very nervous of the quarterfinal against Bayern Munich, especially at the Emirates. We went to Germany and didn't play any kind of a game at all and lost 1-0. Bayern Munich go through 3-2. We're out at the quarterfinal stage. I think we've learned from that. The opponent of Real Madrid might have been the better. Obviously, was the better opponent, the better matchup for us than Atletico Madrid. But we were not nervous. We were not tentative in this game. Even when we went into the 55th minute, we were still composed and continued to play our game. We didn't get out of shape. We didn't get stretched. But for Mbappe having that one chance that we can think of in the first half, they didn't really get behind us or hurt us. So I think it was a really, really composed game at the Emirates. So to your point and your question, Stan, I think we're going to be playing a much more composed game in Madrid. I don't think we'll be overawed by the situation. My only worry will be having a 3-goal lead. You maybe will think it's natural, right? You're going to sit back, want to keep possession, and for me, I'm worried about Real Madrid playing 25 yards from our goal and on the edge of the box and just trying to break us down continuously. We're going to have some threat going to the Bernabeu to relieve some of that pressure. And if we get through the first half without a goal conceded, they'll want to score in the first 20 minutes, right? Real Madrid will come at us. You can just see it now. They'll come at us. We'll be defending for our lives in the first 20 minutes.
Overturned a 3-0 deficit. They have 2-0 a couple of times.
They never overturned it. And
not
a really good stat is that I
They've
think
never
they've never beaten Arsenal in European competition.
We're their
either.
bogey team. Are we actually their bogey team? That's pretty cool.
So that is weird. That is really strange.
I don't think they've scored on us either.
Yeah. 0-0. I mean, in 2006, right? Thierry Henry scores it in the away game, and it's a 0-0 draw at the Emirates. Arsenal go through. That season, we went all the way to the final and met Barcelona.
All right, that's enough.
Who's to say we can't
do
do the same thing, meet Barcelona?
Stop talking about that.
The ultimate revenge game, Stan.
No,
where
I don't even think about that. I don't. Allowed.
The game at the Bernabeu will be like the 6 seasons of Prison Break. What's it 6 seasons? Remember how they were appealing to UEFA to close the stadium roof when playing the City? Alonso Esquire has joined the house. Hey, Alonso.
There was only 2.5 seasons worth of watching a Prison Break. After the 2.5 season mark, it was horrible. So
it'll be like escaping Spain to England with wanted bounties on all of our players.
But you have to remember, this is a newly renovated Bernabeu. It seats about 20,000 more. So you have 100,000 fans. It does sound like bees in there. So it's a be a lot of a different atmosphere than what you had at the Emirates.
Yeah. That was a big test for us.
Mikel Merino yet?
Hey, Alonso. I wouldn't put Whitehead and Skelly is on form right now, says Red John. And we're talking about Miles Lewis Skelly. I think we were just talking about him. He inverted into midfield, combines with Declan Rice, and sets up the third goal for Mikel Merino. Right? We're in dreamland then, because 2-0, you're thinking that's great. We're 2-0 up, but I'd love another goal.
I'll be very quick. I'll be very quick on this. Yeah. Personally, when we got Mikel Merino, I wasn't sure at first. I was okay. I wasn't sure, but what he's been doing as a make weight striker or playing in that position, I mean, and to score that goal on that occasion as well, for me, I'm like, okay, you belong.
Since I start for you, Stan.
Anymore, you're no longer a rookie. If this was like a biker gang, I'd give him his patch.
6 goals in 10 games since he started up front.
But this is the exact same thing that happened last year.
With who? What?
With who was terrible in the midfield. And he finally got up there.
Okay. So the key
Uh,
is we're going to buy Alexander Isak and play him in midfield for half a season next season, and then figure out he's a striker like
but
Chris.
but but didn't he have a
and play him as a striker.
Alexander,
but
you can score goals. I never thought you could do this.
but didn't Kai have a very similar
Profile?
goal tally when he got up there finally
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
Jesus went out?
He hit a rich vein of form. You're right.
So that's what I asked this earlier, and I know Stan was with us. Is like how much do these players practice in an opposite position, a different position than their given position? Because they have to try out things, face their injuries, way teams line up or whatever. But
I mean,
they're
in training, you're more likely to overlap and be out of position and do things. But I think in general, I don't want to jump in and answer the question for you, but I think
you
in
go.
general, you keep your position and you play your position. I don't know if anyone else thinks differently.
I would guess that in the situation with having no strikers, and they were like, okay, what we're going to do now? They came to a decision for whatever reason that it was going to be Mikel Merino, and then from that moment on, Mikel Merino's training has probably been more encompassed around how someone like Jesus would train or a striker would train rather than in the midfield position. So to help him understand the position, where he's supposed to be, who is going to be receiving the ball off, the people sending him the ball need to understand how he wants to receive the ball. Does he want to come running in behind, or does he want it to feet? Does he want to have high balls come? You know what I mean? I would have imagined it would have been that. Once they realised that they were going to have to use somebody else, that somebody else training would take on a whole different thing to learn that position. So I reckon that's what's happened. And
Yeah.
he's done well, man. He
I,
has.
I I think he's always had the positioning though. I think that's the part he want to have work on.
We talking about Miles Lewis Kelly, right?
No,
Marino. Mikel
Marino.
Mikel.
Marino. Okay.
Even
No.
when he gets moved back into midfield, he now knows he's now going to be brave enough to be getting in the box and getting on the end of things because he's been doing it.
Yeah, the second striker joining Isak.
Now.
Yeah. He'd be like the Dennis Bergkamp to the Thierry Henry that Isak will be. Yeah? You asked the question about being intimidated about the Bernabeu. And I think you have players like Thomas Partey who's played in La Liga for many years.
Yes.
You had Mikel Merino who's played for Real Sociedad last season. He's played against Real Madrid, and I think he's he scored most goals against Real Madrid now.
I was playing in that league.
And you have Odegaard. Odegaard used to play there as well. So we have that.
And Tierney as well.
Tierney as well. We have the experienced players, Alonso, and throw in Declan Rice now, who just seems to rise to the occasion. But Kaya Saka and David Raya and Saliba, we're not without players who will be able to stand up tall in the Bernabeu and meet the challenge. You know.
Yeah, and also given the fact that our wings, our left and wing, our right wing and Bukayo Saka and Martinelli aren't afraid to defend either. So
yep.
I think Arteta has his weaknesses, but his strengths are having people defend. And who would have thought Kvyat would have helped have a hand in a clean sheet as well. So, I think despite everything that has happened, I think with all the injuries, I think there's plenty to pay for still. And I think, no matter who comes in the starting 11, I think that there's a lot of players that are willing to play more for something. And I think, having proved that we beat Real Madrid, the defending champions, says a lot about this group. I think Miles Kelly rose to the occasion. I think all players rose to the occasion. I think Partey having experience. Again, playing with Real Madrid, playing against them in important games whenever he's with Atletico Madrid, having that classical, I guess, is what it is. All those things factor in, and I think I was telling my coworker of mine how the Premier League is different than the La Liga. I think La Liga is less physical. I think with the Premier League is more aggressive, and I think Arsenal have learned from that in the past. So all those things being said, I think Arsenal could possibly upset Real Madrid at Bernabeu.
Yeah. Tiger and Gunners going for a 1-1 and the return, right? So definitely that would be an upset and would be holding them back a little bit. And Gary defenses maybe can carry this team forward to a final.
Yep, that's our strength right now. That's
And
our
it's just
strength right
about-
now. So we should be lenient. We shouldn't have to worry about that because it's the most consistent part of our game. So why not? And then we're just getting a little bit healthier. On top of that, I would like to see where he gets some more minutes. But otherwise, I think defensively we're sound, and everybody has responsibilities on the defense, right? As we said, so we defend as one
1-0.
or as 11, right?
Yeah.
Nobody has nobody gets any days off. I mean, you see Moreno up top, and then you see him in the midfield, right? Sometimes all in the same sequence, so everybody has their part to play. I think the defense is what we'll lean on, and then when if we can, like we say, get past those first 20 minutes and they get frustrated, then then maybe we just put the game to bed. Hopefully, maybe even earlier if they want to do that. But I think we should be able to lean on that. And Arteta's going to be, he's going to be, as I say, risk averse. So the last thing he's going to want to do is give up a goal, right? So
yeah, it's perfect when you take a 3-0 lead to the Bernabeu. Maybe being risk averse is not a bad thing, but I think we have to show a little bit of intent going forward.
Hopefully, Timber's injury isn't much because,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, I think he's the most important part about this because he's disciplined back there as fullback that does what he's supposed to.
Stan?
Is anyone worried that Real Madrid could turn this around, that we won't make it to the semi-final? If we don't make it to the semi-final, social media is going to be nuclear. It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, Arsenal bottle a 3-0 lead against Real Madrid, the best team in Europe. Yeah, listen, goals can go in at any point in any minutes. First minute to the 5th minute to the 10th minute, they could score an early goal. But I think there's enough about this team that they can pull themselves together. And, when you go through this team and you're asking yourself, do they have the minerals for this? I have to say, yes, we do have the minerals for this. It'll be, but no doubt it's going to be a huge test, right?
If anyone doubts what they can do, rewatch that PSG and Real Madrid game earlier this season and how they turned it around in that second half. About 5 goals.
Right, but you said yourself that PSG team, we had our way with that PSG team because they were young. That was a young team, Tony, and they've no doubt they're growing up through the season. And what's his name has done a really good job.
They were terrible when we played them.
Yeah.
Their worst loss is that match. So either their worst match was that they only lost 3 or 4 times this season. That's their worst loss. I mean,
that's a young team.
Yeah. So
that was a young team, and things can snowball quickly when you have a team that's young, that is that young. And PSG have grown throughout this competition, as Red John said earlier. They could be he would prefer PSG because Aston Villa know us. All right. Stan, you got to go. Give you a
my
chance
dinner's
to
been
say
served
goodbye.
up now. My dinner's been served up. But good to talk to all of you. Great result. And half time. We're at half time now in this match. Basically, that's how I look at it. It's half time. We've got to go now for the second half, and
Yeah.
get into the
And
semi.
what do you say, Stan? What do you say to yourself if Arsenal's 3-0 up against Man City at home in the first at halftime? You gotta say keep it tight for the first 15 minutes, and we can get through this.
Yeah, and try and get another one.
Try and get another one. So
Get another one. Put them to the
it's not
sword. Keep doing what you're doing.
it's not over, and it could go either way with Real Madrid. You never know, but I'd much rather have a 3-0 lead than a 2-0 lead.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stan, for
Good night,
joining
everyone.
tonight.
Thanks for tuning in,
Good night.
everyone. Take it easy.
All right, I was gonna go into this one, Gary. This lineup that Mikel Arteta picked, it kind of gives an insight as to where he sees the hierarchy in the team, right? So I'm talking about Ethan Nwaneri here. He's a really, really big talent for Arsenal. But when Martinelli and Saka are available, Odegaard's available, Rice is available, we didn't find an opportunity to start Ethan Nwaneri. Is that a
Well,
good
we had the
thing, or
opportunity, we just didn't do it, right?
we had the opportunity, we just didn't do it? Yeah.
I just feel like Nweri is, if he was given the minutes like Skelly, we would probably see the similar progression in terms of form here. All right, so that's kind of what I feel. See, the same way, yeah. So I think it's not necessarily, it's not really a bad thing that he's not playing, but I would like to see him get more minutes to see what more he can do. I think the more minutes he gets, the better off he'll be, and he has shown that his skill set is really what we were missing a lot of times. All right.
Yeah.
So, just get the ball to his feet and, he'll probably take the shot. So,
If everybody is fit, Gary,
yeah.
the only two changes probably from last night would be Havertz playing up front instead of Merino, and Gabriel Magalhaes playing instead of Kivior.
Yeah, but Gabriel is not coming back, so
I know, but if everybody was fit, I just want to get an idea of where Mikel Arteta's
That's
best
the
team
thing we
is.
don't. That's the thing we don't even know, right? Mikel Arteta probably may even still think Jesus is his number one center forward, right? He just hasn't been healthy over the last number of years, so it's made it like I feel like that's made it easy for him not to actually put him in that position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's availability that's been the reason, or inavailability that's been the reason why we've seen change.
and we seen that last year. Ray didn't think that Jesus would play any after he came back, but Arteta started playing him, and that kind of had something to do with our form at the end of it.
Yeah, it was right around the Bayern Munich game in the quarterfinal and the Aston Villa game.
It was
Right,
close
John?
to it was close to Easter again, wasn't it? The Easter was
Yeah.
earlier
Right, John
last
said,
year.
if we win the Champions League, the Arsenal kit will forever be goated. Alonso, what kind of clues? What do you think about Mikel Arteta's strongest lineup and the inability to get one area into it? Are you good with it? When Harry can come off the bench, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean he can, and I think he's just been a product of Saka being hurt, and I believe that he's Saka's backup for next year and the future. It's just when Saka clearly edges him out because he's been on the team for a long time. So and Saka's just so good right now that you can't just bench him and ahead of Nowari. Um, That being said, if Arteta were careful, I will play Nowari on Saturday just to rest Saka because Saka isn't at 100% just yet.
Yeah.
And of course he'll make changes. Yeah. So that being said, it's good to see Nowari still being active, I guess, on the team because we're gonna need him this whole season and even during the Champions League substituting. So, again, Noir is still very young. He's still learning. I think with Miles Skelly, I think he just got the job and just ran with it. There's no one currently on the team that's gonna stop him. Kyle is hurt. Tomiyasu is hurt. Zinchenko. I think his bags are halfway packed because he's never going to see a pitch again. From what I think, so there's a lot of factors going into this, but I think the way Arteta's played Newari has been quite well, and the way he's used them has been quite decent. You can't ask for anything else than that right now out of Newari. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of upside to Ethan. Right now, Saka is a sure bet now that he's coming from his injury. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to see what happens on Saturday. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how Saturday play out and next Wednesday as well.
I think we're going to see a heavily rotated team on Saturday, and I'm not against that because of the players that need rest. Bukayo Saka, Partey, Declan Rice, Odegaard, Martinelli. If we play Bayern in the final, both teams can't wear home kits. But I think it's going to be tough for Bayern to get through now. They got to go to Italy. Gary, I know you got to leave in a minute or right about now. So just let me know.
Just to go against Alonso because I like doing that. Inweri isn't a backup to Saka, not in the long term. Not in the long term. No, you said it in the long term. He is, and I'm saying he is not. That man's got a position on a team, wherever we decide to put him. But yeah, I think it would be a wasted talent to have him playing behind Saka. We always talk about players coming in and being okay to play behind. I think, and where he's got the talent that he eventually will be a starter.
We haven't seen it though. I mean, he's gone for Martinelli on the left. He could have maybe played one area on the left.
He's a backup. Me and Gary have agreed on this forever. He's a backup to Odegaard. He's an attacking midfielder.
Wow. You two can agree on things, but I'm trying to get at where Mikel Arteta, what his thinking is, what Mikel Arteta's thinking is.
Yeah.
He's the one who's going to make.
Well, like I said, I think it'd be
Arteta doesn't trust people. That's what it boils down to.
We just talked about. We spent a whole show talking about players playing out of position and not getting to play in their preferred positions. And Inweri is an attacking mid.
Right. What's his preferred?
That's what he's been doing all of his.
What's his preferred position, right? Gary? In your opinion, what is
attacking mid? He's attacking mid player.
Right or left?
I don't think it matters. I actually don't think it matters.
Okay, so he's either going to displace the captain or he's going to displace 105 million pounds. So that's a tough ask, right?
He's a talented player.
I understand that.
He's definitely better. He's definitely better at shooting at the goal than that. And I have no doubt that he's probably just as he can be just as good as in passing.
The only position he can displace is Martinelli because he's gonna. Do you want him to knock off 105 million Declan Rice in the left eight?
If you get a better player, then
yes.
That's what you have a better player, then yes. It doesn't matter about the price. And when you have a better talent, right? If somebody's better than Saka,
Rice just scored
Saka because Saka was a world-class player? No, you play the better player, right?
Declan Rice is the better player.
Than an attacking
one area.
Area playing in an attacking formation? I don't think so.
Well, he just scored 2 goals. He
has, yes. But is he a better attacker than Inweri? I would say no to that. Yeah, I would say no to that. He's a better defensive player. Is he a better attacker? No, he's not.
What you want to do is put a 105 million pound player
You're
on the
looking
bench.
at the numbers again, right? You're looking at the numbers. You're saying just because they spent all this money, we should play him. That's like saying because we spent 65 mil on Kai Havertz, we have to play him out of position where he's terrible.
One area is not
we
worth
shouldn't do that.
Million.
We shouldn't do that, right?
One area is not worth 100 million right now.
Right.
So
you don't know what his talent level is now, all right? I believe his talent level is pretty high, all right?
You're asking for 105 million pound player or the captain or Bukayo Saka to be dropped for
I
Ethan
didn't say
Waneri.
Saka.
You,
I didn't say Saka at all in this whole situation. You're bringing up
Right.
names. I haven't brought up any names. I just believe that he has
No, because
he's a
I'm trying to
he's
get you into a
he's a
specific.
starting position. He,
You have to
like
be
I
you're
said,
specific
attacking
like
in
I said,
your
midfielder,
worst
right?
case
discussion.
scenario. Like I said, worst case scenario. Maybe he's not even here because we can't find a position for him, and then he has to leave because he gets frustrated sitting on the bench behind players when he's a legit
There's
starter.
there will be opportunities for him to play.
No, playing, but I believe he's a legit starter
Well,
in a
the only
for a
place
first
he can
team.
start in this forward line is on the
Yeah.
left wing for me, when everyone else is fit right now.
Yeah,
Martinelli
yeah.
or
Maybe,
Trossard.
Right.
maybe,
Should,
maybe,
should,
maybe
should he have
I
started? Should he have started when Odegaard was gone?
And then
Odegaard.
it would be really good, Gary, if you could switch Bukayo Saka within the game. You could switch Saka to the left and one area to the right
Yeah.
to
Well,
lose
as
markers.
Tony said when we lost, I would rather had Nweri play when Erdogan was injured
Yeah,
because
I
that's where
wouldn't-
that's his position and that's what he like
that's
based on
definitely
based on the depth chart, he would have been the player to come in
yeah.
and play that position because we didn't
I
have
think
any. We force fit other players in there. They can't do that. They can't take on that role,
I think
right?
that Waneri is a perfect player for if we have an injury in the forward line anywhere.
Right now,
He-
yes,
he
but
can
I'm
do it.
just talking about he is not long term to sit up behind anybody, is what I'm saying. If his
Wow.
talent continues to improve, that's like
Yeah,
I said, the only reason why he's got that is because of injuries. The same way Skelly, right?
he's
Skelly
not
came in
behind.
because Skelly came in for injuries and basically solidified a spot. And where he hasn't had the opportunity to do that because when there were injuries, we didn't play him, right?
Well, it's been more difficult for Waneri
He
because
could have
he's up
come in
against
for Erdogan and he didn't. Even though he was the
Could have.
preferred, that would have been his preferred position. So, like I said, like
Definitely
defensively,
agree with you.
Arteta is trustworthy. He's trusting of his players defensively. Attacking wise, I'll hold back in Wary because you know what? I've got all these other players. Kai Havertz. I've got Trossard, not Trossard, that I'll play in midfield before I play you, and that's your actually position. You know what I mean? That's what we
Yeah.
saw. You see how we
I-
struggled. You see how we struggled. Moreno in midfield. You saw how we struggled, right? We had no attacking, no creativity in that midfield when we had certain lineups in that midfield, and we paid for it. And Wary is one of those players that can bring some creativity. We saw that, right? When
Yeah.
Moreno scored his two, when he scored his 2 goals when he came in, the first goal came from what? Off the foot of who? Right? And
Waneri.
Wary, right? So, like I said, he's got some creativity in there, and we're that's what we need sometimes. All right.
Yeah, I wish that I also wish Mikel Arteta would have seen Waneri as the player who could come in when Odegaard was injured. And I think Waneri's good enough to displace Martinelli eventually and Trossard. I just think if you're trying to, the club captain, maybe it's a little bit of a handicap having Odegaard as the club captain because that means you got to play him. You
don't have to play him. You have to play the better player. This is where you're getting this a little.
You have to play your captain.
You're getting a little confused by because I gave him an armband and there's a better player out there. I have to. I can't sit. I have to sit the better player.
You make your rod for your own back.
That makes no sense, right? That makes no sense. Why would you do that to you? Why would you handcuff your team? Because guess what? I gave him the armband, and guess what? He's not the better player.
Gary, can I present Article A for you?
I don't know.
He's on your side.
I don't know where. I don't know. I don't remember us working in the same law firm. But go ahead and go. Show me why you should join my firm.
The first 2 years that Saka was starting,
I'll allow
he was making $3,000 a year, £3,000 a week.
Yeah.
£3,000 a week, Ray.
Not a year. Yeah.
But that's what you want, Ray. I said that earlier this year. You want $100 million player setting for a $60 million player. You want that competition, and that's why we used to have 4 or 5 strikers. Strikers go out of form, you bring in the next guy. If he's in form, you play him. If he's not in form, you go with somebody else. but we don't have that choice because we have a super thin squad because Arteta doesn't trust people, and the academy kids are leaving because they're not getting any chances to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, just,
I'll
like I
ask.
said, Red John was just talking about like
Yeah.
comparing Nweri to Yamal. And the one thing I'll say about Yamal is he's getting the opportunity and he's shown it, right? He's got the talent level, then they've been able to take that and foster that into a better player. And where he's got that, he's getting held back a little bit, right? I mean, yeah, there's sometimes when he needs to sit because he can't go, back-to-back games or whatever the
He's
case
in
may
it.
be.
He's
But
in
I
it.
feel like if you don't, take that talent that he has and build on it, you might lose. You might lose him. That's all.
Yeah. Who would you have knocked out of the team on Tuesday night to put one area in? That's the Gary end, Tony.
As you said, you could have taken Martinelli and put him in there.
Yeah.
All right.
Tony?
I would have probably go with the captain because that's what his position is.
I mean, it's easy. It's easy for him to see. He can go. He's an attacking mid, but to deceit someone, and based on what you're saying, and Arteta is probably thinking as well, I can't deceit my captain. But he's got what we might need on the. He can definitely deceit Martinelli.
It's
right?
tough. Yeah, it's tough when you have a captain.
Yeah.
You have to think about somebody who's always going to be in the team.
Modric's the captain for Real Madrid, but he comes off the bench, right? So it's not you don't just because you're the captain doesn't mean you have to start every game, right?
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So you always talk about the captain has to be on the pitch. Well, obviously not, because Real Madrid, who's supposedly one of the best teams in the world, has their captain sitting on the bench, right? So it's not a requirement that you have to play.
And Ray Alonso, look at our own team.
Mm-hmm.
When Arteta was captain, he didn't play very much.
Yeah. Because he was older at the time, and he tried to save his legs, and he ended up being hurt as well a lot. So it's always good to have vice captains that you could depend on to play a whole 90 minutes as well. And in my case, I think Odegaard is younger than Modric, and so I think he doesn't. I think there's so much pressure to score every game as a captain, and he does all those small things right as far as pressing and all that stuff. He's the only guy that really does that on a constant basis. So he does all those small things right, and this may not be his best year, but he's still very young, and so I think. By sitting your captain, kind of you take a risk by doing that, Tony. And granted, Nweri, like I said before, he's still very young and he's still learning the English Premier League type of style of play. So, I don't know. I think if you're gonna sit someone, it should be Martinelli. But Martinelli had 2 games.
I just want on that comment right there, the 2 games that Nweri missed. It wasn't Erdiger wasn't out. All right. So he wasn't out.
That was for Saka, was it?
Yeah. No, I mean
so he would have played when Saka was out. I think after the Brighton game.
That's the only time he was getting the start.
Yeah. So Nweri and Erdiger didn't when Erdiger was out, that's when he didn't play earlier in the season, but late when Nweri went out for the muscle injuries. I'm just looking at the transfer mark. Those two games, Erdiger was back, so he wasn't going to play probably, right? So I kind of feel like that's not it. I just think it's when he was out from September to November, right? And from September to November, he was he sat for basically 3 games. He was on the bench, not played. And then he got over 10 minutes once in that time frame.
Yeah, I didn't get
he got like 4 or 5 minutes in a match when he did start play. So like I said, I don't think we utilized him when we had an opportunity when Erdiger was out. So, you're not gonna see the same kind of progression as you did like with Skelly, because he got came in and we're like, well, Zinni, you're down. All right, you never got an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Didn't it end up being like 25 minutes or something, Gary? Because I know that
he played
question
29
was
minutes. He played 29 minutes
It
against
was a
Newcastle.
small amount of minutes.
So, but everything else was under 10 minutes. He played
Very, very much underutilized.
He played 5 minutes against Leicester. When he came in against Leicester and looked really good, right? In 5 minutes, he was like putting shots up against Bournemouth. He got 9 minutes, same thing, right? I mean, he's played, like I said, for the first half of the season, the most minutes he got was 29 and 28, and then after this Christmas, basically he started getting more. He got like starts.
This was a player who was on preseason with us, so it's not like we didn't know who he was or what he could do for us. We'd seen it in preseason as well.
Yeah, but seeing it in preseason and seeing it in leagues are different, right?
Yeah, but you see it in preseason, so you know you can use them in the league. So you should have used them in the league. That's what I'm
saying. I've seen it before. You've seen Gnabry do great in the preseason, but
Tony
wouldn't play him.
Tony, do we?
I'm gonna have to go. Sorry,
Gary,
I don't want to interrupt.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for being here.
Ray, thanks for having me, Tony, Alonzo, Stan, everybody in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Hit the likes and subscribe. And I'm out.
Can I be on your attorney?
Good talking with you. Good jousting with you.
Pending applications pending. All right, see you guys.
Cool, Gary. Thank you.
Yep.
Tony, do we wish that Barcelona gets beaten on the other side of the draw? They look dangerous.
I still go with this thing. You got three teams competing for that title. I hate this. Look great.
I'm gonna keep it just because you hate it.
Yeah.
I kind of hate it too.
All right, Alonzo, since you wanted to change it, it was your request, Alonzo, that I respected.
At least mine, I have a camera that keeps me centered. So it's not that big of a deal. I just don't like the way
You're never centered, Tony.
That's because I'm missing a quarter of my leg, right?
I didn't mean it that way. Jeez. Your center of balance is, your center of gravity has changed, Tony, over the years.
The return leg, right? Come on.
Return leg. Return to sender. Anyway, Barcelona.
But like I said, I wanted Real because of the way they play. But Barcelona's that'd be kind of the same thing.
Barcelona is a more dangerous team, are they not?
Like I said, you watch Real Madrid in that second half against PSG.
Okay.
He had 5 goals just in nothing, and Vinny Jr. did 3 of them by himself. He went Ray. He went all the way across the box, then he cuts it all the way to the other side of the net. He's super dangerous. We're playing against dangerous players right now.
Who's dangerous? Name Mbappe?
Junior.
Vinicius.
Yeah.
He was very well held. Him and Rodrigo were very well held by our fullbacks. Right, Alonso?
Yeah, it's very impressive. You know, I remember whenever Arsenal signed Jurgen Timber, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I wish he got hurt, because here's a player that I saw in World Cup whenever Holland or Netherlands played USA, and I was like, man, this guy could be really special.
Yeah.
But whenever it was found out that Arsenal were in for him, I thought, man, because in Holland, right, they're taught to play they're taught to play multiple positions.
Yep.
And whenever I say, well, you can play left and right back, it's like, all right, cool, it's an added bonus. It seems like, because if Ben White get hurt, or Tomiyasu, or whoever it was at the time that was going to start for us, there was another player there. And
Well,
unfortunately, he got hurt and he missed almost
what's your
whole campaign.
preferred position for him, Alonzo?
Right. So, like I was saying before, so let me finish, Tony, please. So, whenever he got hurt, which is unfortunate, we didn't see the real Jurgen Timber come out because he was getting healthy. And those 2 games, it's all that matters best, right? Going out to midfield and helping in attack and all that stuff. And, I know Stan wanted him playing as a right back because we had Ben White there. But we didn't know how good Miles Lewis-Kelly was going to be. And even in preseason, we saw glimpses. But, to have such composure from both of them, kind of, you could almost say, well, it's a makeshift backfield back. So, how can I say it?
Makeshift back four.
The back four, yeah. And because you have Kigar, who's in for Regulus, you have, technically, that was Zinchenko's spot, but then he got overtaken by Tomiyasu, Timber, and Miles Lewis-Kelly. So there's that. And then you had Timber filling in for Ben White, technically. And you basically have the only mainstay you had from last year was Saliba. We talk about how much Arteta wants to develop the back four first, right? And having all these alternatives, all these, he's been rotating. He has ability to rotate, basically. Whenever you have Ben White, Timber, granted Tomiyasu's out, so is Bangladesh, so is, Calafiori. This is why you have backups, because of these moments like this. Granted, none of them were starting, Calafiori nor Tomiyasu were starting right now because they're hurt. And it's a shame that Tomiyasu has had injury problems, because when healthy, he's very good, right? So, with all that considered, Ray and Tony, we're very lucky to have 2 great fullbacks. I consider Timber a star, and Miles Lewis-Kelly, the way he's come on this year has been unexpected and a surprise, but he's poised beyond his years. And I think he's a mainstay, just like Ashley Cole was all those years ago. So, with all that said, wow. It was quite a pleasant surprise, but still kind of shows you that these guys are determined to shut them down. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tony, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but would you ask Tony?
My team was playing final of the day.
I asked you if you preferred Timber on the right or left.
Oh, wow.
I think he plays better on the left. But...
So do I, because, for some reason, Stan doesn't think so. But, I prefer on the left, because Ben White, it's a shame he got hurt, but I think Ben White needed that surgery. We don't know, but I think, I want to assume that he's been playing hurt for a long time. But I think Ben White will get there. I think, it's always going to rotate. But unfortunately, we've all watched Arsenal long enough to where, players get hurt, and we've been crying out for rotation for years now. So we're very lucky to have players that are ready to play and called upon.
Yeah, listen, I think Red John's comment here, as you're talking about this, is important. Unpopular opinion, but I think playing against Leroy Sané in the Champions League quarterfinals last year prep the Arsenal defenders were playing against speedsters like Vinny and Mbappe. Listen, you get to a quarterfinal of Champions League last year, your levels have to go up. You have to get better because you're going to face Gnabry, Leroy Sané, you're going to face Lautaro Martinez, you're going to face Yamal, you're going to face Rafinha, the top players in the world. And defenders are going to have to live with these players as well. I remember Leroy Sané and Gnabry ripping us with their pace. And I think Harry Kane, love him or don't love him, which we don't love him typically, but Harry Kane was vital in that game as well, to bring Sané and Gnabry into and give us fits. Tony, we were so composed against Mbappe, Rodrigo, and Vinicius Jr. I'm forgetting their names because we barely saw them all game. These are names I should not be forgetting, Tony, but we didn't see them all game. Our defenders took care of them.
And that's why I say it's so crucial for Timber to recover from whatever nick or injury he got during that game. You have to have those guys fit and ready, and that's why I think Skelly and him are great at being fullbacks. But you just can't take your foot off the gas. They're to make a press, and like I said, I've seen it in PSG. Two game go to 2-5 within about 20 minutes time.
Yeah. Any final things we can talk about before we get out of here? It was just Alonso, what were your thoughts on while the game was going on? Did you have butterflies? Were you excited for this game?
I was. I unfortunately was at work, but I did watch the last 15 minutes, and when I saw the score, I thought there's no way. And my friend just had texted me during that time, and he was like, "Man, Declan Rice, unbelievable." And Declan Rice, I think, doesn't get a lot of credit for how he plays. I think Thierry Henry was interviewing him, and whenever you have a player that's judged on that price tag, they always want the media and supporters always want him to score goals and get assists and all that stuff. To me, it's not really about that. It's about just playing the Arsenal way, and I think there are parts of Rice's game that I really enjoy to watch, and he's a very, very smart player. He has a very high IQ. People forget that he didn't have Martin Odegaard the first for like I believe 3 months of the season, maybe 2 months. I don't know.
Yeah.
And people forget that he hasn't really had a healthy team around him, and he'll always get judged by that price tag. And that's a risk Arsenal had to take at the time. And so far, you haven't seen Arsenal digress. So that's a good sign. And
Yeah.
him playing as well as he did on Tuesday night was the best we got out of was Declan Rice at his best. I'm not talking about the free kicks. I'm just talking about his overall game.
Yeah. It looked like you really enjoyed it. And this is the reason why he wanted to leave West Ham to come to Arsenal for nights like that. And we're hoping there's a striker in Newcastle by the name of Isak that will be thinking, well, if I go to Arsenal, I can have some nights like that. Because I'm sorry, Newcastle are not going to get to a quarterfinal or a semi-final of a Champions League.
I still think part of the reason he stepped his game up is that Gabriel wasn't there, because to me Rice has been the third wheel in the leadership. It's Odegaard and Gabriel, then Rice. But now you're without Gabriel for the rest of the season, so you know you have to step up. I think he's had for the most part, he's had a disappointing season. And I still think you have to figure out if he's
Due to injury.
attacking. I still think you have to figure out if he's attacking midfield or defensive. I see him as an attacking player.
Yeah. And number 8, right, Tony?
Yeah.
Not a number 6.
Not a number 6. But like I said, you have Staley. His natural position is that place. So all the rest of these Premier League games are toss-away games because you're not finishing in the top 5, no matter what. After our win, that secured England as having 5 Premier League teams in the Champions League. So I mean,
and Arsenal's win over Real Madrid has now tipped the balance for a top 5 finish in the Premier League. Will get you a Champions League placing. So you're welcome. 5th place in the Premier League. Arsenal brought that to you.
I'm surprised it took that long though, because like a month ago it was like a 96.6% chance of the Premier League getting that spot. So it's weird that it took it that long to get secured. You figure if it's that high of a chance, why does it take that long to come to fruition? But I just think Arsenal has to figure out, hey, okay, we're not playing in the attack. What's our best choice in the defensive midfield? They want to go to Newcastle, get Bruno, but I really think they need to look at Skelly. And you have the opportunity to play him there. So, not that I heard anything by trying.
To me, what hurts Rice's game is when you don't have Partey in there. I think Jorginho, the things he did for Arsenal during his time here haven't been bad, but he just holds up to play so many times. Like the game against, who do we just play?
Real Madrid.
Who did Arsenal just play in the weekend?
Everton.
Yeah, Jorginho looked lost out there. He didn't look his best, and that kind of concerns me because he doesn't play what he's capable of whenever he was like that last year, I guess. What I'm trying to say is like Jorginho to me is older now, so he doesn't really have the capability he once was when we got him, I guess what I'm trying to say. But because with Partey and Jorginho, they're 2 different players. And at his age, Partey could still do the job, whereas Jorginho doesn't have control of the midfield like he once did. That makes sense. So that's a concern, especially whenever you're seeing Partey
We definitely
Wednesday.
We definitely need to revamp midfield for sure.
Well, they're both leaving. The Belgians leaving. So you're not.
But wait, Trossard's leaving?
He wants to leave.
That's Tony's hunch.
Arsenal. it's that he
I mean,
was pretty
you
much
could be right. When things
he,
happen, you're right. You know, it could be 2
he,
seasons from
he,
now, but you'll be right.
Right. He had agreements for winter, but the injuries came and he didn't
Um,
go.
yeah. Arsenal earned 88 million so far in Champions League this season. If they complete the job against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, they will rise to 101 million. If we get to a final, we could get 130 million. So that's the money that we can use for midfield.
That's what I
Uh,
mentioned when Stan was here because
Andrea Berta.
the thing I showed you about 3 weeks ago now was 89 million is what we've earned.
Yeah, for the quarterfinal. So,
So,
did anyone go to the game on Tuesday night? Says Tiger and Gunnar. I haven't had any takers yet, but maybe Riddy was at the game. Sinchenko, I found out the best way to deal with a fast swinger is to jump on their backs and grip tightly and use their own pace against them. Bournemouth prediction. I think we probably win 2-1. I think we win 2-1, even though we'll put a poor team out. Unfortunately, you know, we can all see it, right? We let the league go to rest our players for this Real Madrid game. At the end of the day, it's paid off with a 3-0 first leg win.
it was already gone, right?
Yeah, I know. It was already gone. Since January, it was gone. Well, we didn't decide to pursue a striker. Fulham. They're bringing Danny Ceballos for the game at Santiago Bernabeu. So, listen, we got a huge game. Brentford. No, I'm kidding. Got a huge game. Real Madrid next week to finish the tie off next Wednesday. Before that, we play Brentford. But you got to enjoy these. Tony and Alonso, we've talked about this. Champions League nights. Alonso, we got to enjoy the ride while it can. Let's hope it continues into a semi-final where we play either PSG or Aston Villa.
Yeah, Tony was saying that, I think we could, if we get past Real Madrid, I think we could definitely beat PSG. We already know what kind of trouble Aston Villa can give us. Though, I believe that we had the players to beat when it matters the most. I mean, I think we had the players to beat Aston Villa when it matters the most.
Yep.
And we gotta know what kind of how cool it would be to beat. I mean, watching this, he's gotten really arrogant, and I wouldn't mind being him when it matters the most. So
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet.
I mean, I think we got plenty of motivation to beat them.
Yeah. Tony?
I already said that you're probably not going to be in the position, Ray, to have two free kicks like that. So you have to do it in open play, and I just still don't think we have quite enough to do that right now, even though Saka's back. But he's not 100%. Martinelli's just came back. He's not 100%, and we don't have a striker.
Wait,
No. Alonso?
Martinelli had a good game against who was it?
Everton.
No, the game before that.
Game before that. Fulham?
Yeah, Fulham had a good game. Martinelli had a great game against Fulham. So I don't. He was running up and down the pitch, and causing havoc. So I don't get where he's not 100%, Tony. I mean, are you seeing something different, or because I thought Martinelli had a great game and played full speed most of the time. So
I just don't think he's there.
He's got to take some of those chances, though, as well. I know it was a difficult The one that was parried by the goalkeeper out wide to him is a tough chance to take, but you got to see him taking those chances as well at times. They bring Danny Ceballos. Yeah, okay. We're going to get out of here now. I like Berta going up to Arteta straight after the game. It was great to see. Yeah, there was some people talking about Berta going to Arteta straight after the game. And maybe Andrea Berta will have some influence over Mikel Arteta. I'll have to cancel my snooker trip to Sheffield if Arsenal get to the semi-finals and a PSG game. The Arsenal women's game against Madrid was a predictor that we were going to beat Madrid. Arteta copied the women's team's tactics. So listen, it was great as well. The ladies getting through as well, overcoming I think a deficit in that game as well. We will have to get out of here. We will see you guys at the weekend. Tony does say goodbye on, so I'll say goodbye on
Oh,
Tony.
right. You want to put up those scores?
Do you want to update the predictions?
Yes.
You know what? I will do that. I'll put that in now, and we'll see. So you're gonna have to keep talking for a second.
No problem.
You can do that.
Tony, are you
While
still
I
there?
update the scores, right?
Tony, are you still there, Tony?
Yep, I'm still here.
So how did it go on your wrestling podcast today?
It went fine.
The wrestling.
Yep. Remember, refs always joins me on Thursday.
So Red John, I think the score is gonna be. I think the score is gonna be 2-1. Oh, score is gonna be 2-1 to Arsenal. Why not? I think Saka is gonna score, and Udegaard, aka Udegaard, is gonna score for Arsenal.
Odegaard.
Udegaard, as our friend Gary and Tony likes to say, even though Tony says it's the wrong pronunciation, it's Udegaard.
Yes, he does.
Right, Tony?
Tony is non-participating anymore.
Tony Tiger?
Tony Tyler, are you there? All right, I have updated the scores. Alonso, you are indeed in the lead.
That's right, Sam.
Yes,
That's
you
right.
are, right? Alonso's in the lead. I did pick up some decent points, so I've gone past Tony and Tom. And now I'm into third place, a clear third place. So, Alonso, I'm going to be chasing you down. And
You were ahead of me, Ray.
the Schlag from England, Sam Greenwood, he's in second place. And
But
Schlag from Oklahoma is in fourth place.
Yeah, let's do points per pick, Ray.
oh, jeez, here we go.
I can't break it down like that, Tony.
Tony always had to be in first place, huh, Tony?
Yep.
Alonso, what's the score at the Bernabeu? I think you were given that score. Listen, I think we probably lose out there 2-1. I think we lose 2-1. I just hope we get a goal early so we feel more comfortable rather than them scoring 2 goals and making it 3-2 in aggregate and feeling very nervous indeed. What do you think Madrid will do differently? I just think they will play at a higher tempo, play faster, move the ball faster, and attack us with their pace. And it could be dangerous. It could be a dangerous evening if we don't have control of the ball and hold on to it. I think Bellingham is a fuse. He's got a short fuse, and I think we can get the better of Bellingham. What do you think Madrid will do differently, right? So I assume they will have to open up their defense to go all out to attack us. Yeah, I think Red John, they really have to just go for it. in the first 20 minutes. They'll be hoping to get an early goal. They get an early goal, the atmosphere is going to get even more tense. Now, we said the Arsenal players have the character to get through it, but you want to keep everything contained. Tony, don't forget Richmond play this weekend. All the games are held in Adelaide. So, yeah, we'll be watching that this weekend. I'll also be watching the Masters as well. Arsenal as well, although that will probably be more low key because we're going to rest a lot of players. Probably torturing someone in his basement. Tony is gone. So, Alonso, there you are. You were leading the table. We have 4 or 5, maybe 6 games to go.
Yeah, 6 games.
I think you need to choose very, very carefully your next picks. So there you go, and you can maintain that lead. You're almost there, Alonso.
Yeah, it's ever since we've been doing this,
Upset pick, yeah.
ever since we've been doing this upset picks, I really haven't invested, time in the opponents. So it's been good to finally be in first place for a change. Hopefully, it'll stick around for until the end of the season. So I get my victory speech to Sam Greenwood.
Paul Pot, definitely Lendl Zardi. Paul Pot.
And I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Stan says some kind of excuse on points, but
yeah. And listen, you just beat all of us. You're in the lead right now. You just beat all of us into submission. The rugby that I follow is Rugby Union International Games only. I think there's a Lions tour going on, but I'm not sure when is that going to be later this year? The Lions tour is. Do you know what the Lions tour is, Alonso?
Yeah, if England go around and visit
England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. They put a team together and go down under.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it there. Tony, thanks for joining us. As if I think maybe he can hear us. Alonso, good of you to drop in as well, all the way back from work. And listen, happy days. We beat the best club team in the world 3-0 with 3 amazing goals. This is what football. This is what football is all about. And I get irritated with Arsenal because I know how good they can be. That when they drop their levels and lose to Bournemouth, no disrespect to Bournemouth, or lose to Newcastle, or draw to Everton, it's really disappointing. And we let a Liverpool team. We're just as good as that Liverpool team, but they are walking toward a league championship, a league title, a Premier League title. And that's kind of annoying in my sense. For me, that's annoying. What we need to do, Alonso, if we can't win the Premier League, what do we need to do? Go and win this Champions League.
Go for it.
Just go for it.
Yeah, because I think there's certain goals that Arteta has to try to accomplish at the beginning of the year, and take. I know there's an excuse for he's been in this job for 5 years or 5.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
However, he may put some cups aside, and knowing that the reality is that we're so far from the winning the league now that why not put all your eggs in one basket and just go for it? We got nothing to lose now. I think as supporters, if we beat Real Madrid and somehow skate to the semifinal, given the fact that there's still good teams left in the tournament that we can still play, going to the final to me and finishing second in Premier League, in hindsight, isn't that bad of a season at all. It's a great season to me. Now, if you win the Champions League, that's a pinnacle, right? So that's one cup checked off Arteta's resume, right? So next year, if we win that, we could win the league, do better in FA Cup, do better in League Cup, because all these competitions are now winnable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you set yourself for a standard. So
100%. Listen, these are the competitions. These are the trophies that when a team is good and you come into a cycle where you're good for 3 or 4 years, you want to get yourself into a quarterfinal, you want to get yourself into a semifinal, and you want to get into a final and actually win it. So this cycle of 3 or 4 years is going to come now. We get a striker this summer, but before that, why not go for it all? Why not go for this Champions League? And this is something that Arsenal fans have been waiting for their team to win a Champions League. As both of us are Philadelphia Eagles fans, we waited a few years for them to win their first Super Bowl, and they did it in 2017, and that was great. And now they've since done a second one this past spring or winter, right? So we want Arsenal to start climbing that ladder of achievement as well, Alonso. So it's been a great 48 hours with that 3-0 win, and we are definitely enjoying it.
yeah, and rotation plays a big factor in it as well, right? Because in years before, we've been crying out for rotation.
Yeah.
And granted, we don't have a striker, but we have someone that constantly is going to score now. So, in the formation we have for the back, we have rotation. We have more capable players like Ben White playing. We have Miles Skelly coming into his own now. You have QVR, who, I mean, people don't realize how good QVR can be. And people say, well, yeah, he sucks. He's not very good. Oh, no. Oh, dear. But just got a couple games, and he'll make it right.
Yeah.
We didn't lose at Everton. We didn't draw against Everton because of him.
Right.
So
Miles Lewis Skelly with and the goal and the referee. You know what I mean?
yeah. So
it wasn't because of KVR.
And I don't understand why people get so worried about KVR.
Yeah.
He's a good center back. He's a good player.
Yeah.
So
he's a Polish international.
Yeah. So why people get so down on him playing, I don't understand. It's like almost like
You have to understand that you can't play your best 11 players every game. You're going to have to play these kinds of players, these squad players who will step up for you in the end of the day. But we'll leave it there. Alonso, thanks for joining. Thanks everybody for watching tonight. I think I really enjoyed the podcast tonight, and Arsenal winning. When's that going to happen again? Maybe we can beat Real Madrid again in the coming seasons 3-0. Maybe in the return leg we can beat Real Madrid 3-0 again. But definitely enjoy this one for what it is, and we'll see you Sunday. Right? Take care, everyone. Cheers, Alonso. Thanks.